And now it's time for headlines with JT and the Hootastic panel.
It's Sunday. It's the 8th of September. It is 2024. It's 8 o'clock here in the UK. Hello. Happy weekend to you. Happy Sunday. It's your big show. It's Sunday headlines. My goodness. And we do have a big show for you tonight. I can promise you that we have got lots to get through. Hello, everyone. It is good to see you. How are you all? Oh man, look at you all coming into the chat to say hello to us. It is fantastic to see you. And I'm starting straight away actually with the super chat. And this is from Lex. Lex, you are in my list of people to say hello to right at the top of the show here. What are we going to see here? Thank you so much for your super chat. Hiya. Sorry I can't make tonight's show. I'm going to my great aunt's funeral tomorrow morning. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, mate. I am sorry to hear that. My dad, who is a minister, is taking the funeral service. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Yeah. What can you say with a situation like that, eh? But I hope the day goes well. And I hope your dad is fine. And yeah. Oh, one question. Did you see on YouTube yesterday that they were live streaming Gatwa's episodes on Doctor Who live stream? What is the point of that? Good question. No, I didn't. And no, I wouldn't be interested. Once was enough for me, Lex and Who viewers. You all know that. I had to sit through 8 weeks of that to review it for this show. I am not going to sit through it again. That series is gone. It's dust. I don't want to know about it. No more, mate, all right, in it. But thank you so much for that, Lex. And as I say, I hope everything goes all right for you tomorrow. Oh, man. Sad news, isn't it? Anyway, let's move on with headlines tonight, because I do have an awfully big show for you tonight. Because have you heard? Well, if you are looking for a reason to stop paying your BBC television license here in the UK, stay tuned. Because we've just discovered yet another reason why you shouldn't be paying, allegedly, your TV license. We're going to be coming to that very shortly. RTD, he's been in the news again. Yes, he's been giving it some more of that. He's been speaking again. It's about time he really didn't bother doing interviews, isn't it? Don't you miss the days, Who viewers, where people who were in touch with, behind the scenes on the production just stayed out of the way and didn't get in touch with interviewers and stuff like that? I really do now, because every time he opens his mouth, he says something else. Anyway, so we're going to be coming to all that very shortly. And in a few minutes' time, we are going to be talking about Sylvester McCoy and Matt Smith. Bless. All that's coming up for you here on The Big Show. As ever, I am not alone. And something's going on. I don't feel special anymore. Have you seen this? Look at these two.
What? You can't really see him. I have to stand up. But you may have noticed something more subtle I've placed on myself. I don't know if you noticed anything.
Have you got new glasses?
New glasses.
You've had your hair done. You've had your hair done.
He's had his hair done
as well. Yes. New glasses and new do, I think they're called. Yeah.
Brushing your stubble. That's what's different.
A bit of stubble, yeah. I'm not trying to look cool as well at the same time.
I think you're just trying to wind up Phil and Kirsty personally with that there.
Well, this is going straight on eBay tonight. I'm just saying that now.
It's uncanny, isn't it, everyone? I don't feel validated anymore with these two wearing my outfit. It's just strange. Listen, I want to start the show just before we get into all this, actually, by saying a huge happy birthday to that other well-known show. Is it well-known? Maybe not. Yes, it is. I'm just kidding you, of course, because, of course, happy birthday here on the 8th of September to Star Trek, which, of course, started on the 8th of September, 1966 in America. So happy birthday to Star Trek. It's 3 years younger than Doctor Who. Just wanted to point out.
Yeah. We had Vulcan first.
we certainly did.
Yeah. A few weeks before. Listen, everybody's joining us in the chat now, guys. So Sam's saying to us, "You've gone corporate."
That's right.
Matt 532 say Paul finally got his pencil. Oh God,
I did. Yeah.
I
can retire now. Happy man, though. It's good.
Garbage said, bloody hell, they come threes now. Whose views looking good, guys? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Simon L, nice to see you. Hey, who's up for rebooting the Day of the Triffids series and going back even further? Who's interested in rebooting the tripods and finishing off? Now, I have to tell you, they did reboot the Day of the Triffids. And if you don't know about it, it's because it was terrible and you've missed it. But they did.
Was that the Dougray Scott version you're referring to?
It possibly could, because
And
I
Eddie
forgot.
Izzard was in it as well.
Yeah, Eddie Izzard was in it as well. So they did reboot it. It was a massive, spectacular failure. So there, and when you're talking about the tripods, oh, if Jodie was here, she'd tell you all about the tripods, Simon, because Jodie's a huge tripods fan. She still hasn't forgiven the BBC for the cancelling. It was Michael Grade again, wasn't it? It was one of his chops. No, we're not doing that. We don't want a third series. But the rights have been with certain production companies now for a long time. And there's always, as with many things in show business, a hell of a lot of reasons as to why they won't and can't do it. And the world's getting crazier, so goodness knows if we'll ever see it again. But there we go.
Do they have to do like a reconstruction of series 3 and do it all like animated or something like that to make up for it? You know.
Well, the rights are with people. It's in the same quandary as Blake 7, I think, when it comes to all this. You know, it's very, very strange when it all comes to the tripods. But thank you all.
In the late 90s, I suppose, really, because the rights of Doctor Who were all over the place, weren't they? At one point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So listen, it's great to see everybody coming into the chat. As I said, we do have a big show for you. David Harding is saying to us, hopefully Star Trek will do a better job celebrating its 60th anniversary than Doctor Who did. You're funny.
Don't hold your breath on that one.
More stinging Klingons with a birthday cake, possibly, on whatever Enterprise they're on now. I don't know. And
they'll be crying whichever Enterprise they're on, won't they?
Yeah. Stay tuned for more on that coming up in the show. X-Man 577, Matt Smith's my favourite Doctors in the new series. Sylvester McCoy was a clown, and I noticed you can see it in his work as the Doctor. Yeah, they are coming up very shortly for us to talk about. But it's lovely to see you all. I just want to say, as usual, thank you so much for all the messages and the emails that you've been sending in to us. It really is. It's so humbling when everybody's getting in touch. But you can get in touch with me at whosviews1@gmail.com. There's the email address for you, whosviews1@gmail.com. And it's wonderful to hear from you. It really does cheer me up at the end of a long working day, I have to say, when I get these emails. But thank you very much this week too. Lex Kane, who we've already mentioned, thank you again for your super chat. To Silky Cossack, nice to hear from you. Nick King, hiya Nick, how you doing? Yep, stay strong, my friend, stay strong. Stephen Braddock, to Michael in Canada, good to see you and hear from you, mate. John Sheridan, Richard Moore, big shout out to Richard, because like Nick, he's going through a very difficult time at the moment as well. Sent us a lovely email. Really appreciate your email, Richard, as well, which I passed to the guys earlier today when I got that. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you're enjoying the show and being part of it. It is a lovely community here on Who's Views. Everybody is fabulous. It's certainly building up into a really nice a nice venue to be in, I think. So it's great to hear from you, Richard. I want to say thank you to Andy Gladhill, who provided one of our stories here on Headlines today, John Mason, Matt, the Silent Wee Music King, Charles1642, and to Julianne as well. So thank you, everybody, for getting in touch. Let's crack on with the show, because did you see this week? This will make you laugh. Doctor Who Series 1 from Bad Wolf and BBC Studios is up for 5 nominations at the Bafta Cymru, which is the Welsh Baftas for those of you outside the UK. Wow. Now, part of me thinks, what else have they got?
I've never understood the fact they have local BAFTA. They do it in Scotland as well. It's almost like they can't compete in the UK generally, so they do their own, which is really odd, I think.
Well, it's very, very strange, isn't it? Because I always thought the English ones were actually across the board, because Doctor Who's been nominated in those as well, and some of the Scottish shows have. So this is one of those token things, isn't it? To say everything has to have Scotland on a label, and this has got to have Welsh on a label to keep the nationalists happy. That's my opinion. That's all. I don't think this. Why can't we just have a British one? Why do we have to have these little films? I suppose it's recognizing. Now think about it. It's recognizing the industries in the devolved union part of the union. I don't know.
It does strike It does strike similarities with the political system, though, doesn't it? You have Scottish, Welsh, Irish parliaments, but you don't have. As an English person, it does rankle a little bit that we aren't entitled to our own parliament. Our parliament is supposed to be the United Kingdom. So
Ian, you can have it. You're welcome to it. You have it.
It's like Scotland, Ireland, Wales has two in a sense. They have the UK one and your own, whereas the English, you're just like, you're clearly a minority. You're not allowed it, and it just seems the same. I think it is a bit of pandering. It is a bit of pandering, isn't it? Really, I think.
Yeah. I don't know, Paul Ashworth, again, thank you for your super sticker. Oh, I love these super stickers because I don't know why, they just make me chuckle. I don't know why. It's the juvenile side of me, I guess, because we never had these when I was a kid. But he's got this sort of like pear thing, blowing a New Year razzer, and it just makes me laugh. I love these little animations. Goodness knows where they're all going to go. But thank you so much for that, Paul. Great to see you. We do have some of you already talking about these. Look, Talons of Wayne Chang is saying never when it comes to this, and Matt532 is saying Welsh Baftas. I know, but they are there.
Do you have the nominations, what they're up for, GT?
I do. We'll come to that in a second.
Okay,
We've got Stephen here telling us, thanks, JT. Nick has been enjoying a healthy dose of Carry On England, Scooby-Doo, Doctor Who, and The Life of Brian. And he says, thank you all. Nick, you're very, very welcome. Very, very welcome.
I hope you're watching Scooby-Doo, the 60s version. That's the best. That's definitely the best.
Oh,
yeah, 69.
Yeah. Peter Wenger wants to know, do BAFTA no longer have standards? And Mike Disney is saying, shouldn't it be the WAFTers? Or as a friend of mine calls, the Wokters?
Or the NAFTAs, I think, yeah.
Glenn, hello, Glenn. Thanks for joining us. How's RTD's fight against the far right going? Is he winning his invisible war? Well, you can decide yourself, Glenn. Stay with us because we are going to be talking a little bit about him in this very, very show. And Simon Ellis saying, yeah, shouldn't they be called the WAFTers? Yeah, it's a good point. And then a couple of we haven't even got to nominations yet. I love the way they're all chatting. Richard is saying the Dafters. John is saying the Dafters. And Josh Jordan is with us. Hello, lovely. As a proud Welsh woman, I protest this. Do you notice I was identifying as a proud Welsh woman then? I protest this, boyo.
You've ruined it now by saying boyo. That was it.
Oh, sorry.
Just David's involved in it. It's got to be the Wofters. Really.
You'll have Ben Weir on in a minute.
How's your dad, Just Jordan? Is he with us? Say hi to him. John, no, you haven't missed out yet because we've been greeting everybody. But we are right now on our first story, John. So great to see you. And it is the fact that, as I say there, Doctor Who Series 1 from Bad Wolf and BBC Studios has been nominated for 5 BAFTAs, Welsh BAFTAs. Now, as Paul was asking what they were, let's have a look. It's been nominated as the best sound team. There it is there at the top, along with Men Up from Q Street Productions, Boom Simru and BBC One, broadcast on BBC One, and Wolf, Hartswood Films, with APC Studios and broadcast on BBC One. That's number 1. It's been nominated in the editing category with Dylan Gooch, who did Firebombers, never heard of it. John Richards, Men Up, I've never heard of it. Sarah Jones, The Way, I've never heard of it. And there's Tim Hodges for Doctor Who. Let me know if you've heard of any of these other things.
But the sound and the editing, I'll say, definitely were very good.
Right. It's also been nominated for the Best Actor, everybody. Yes, Ncuti Gatwa has been nominated as Best Actor as his role as the Doctor in Doctor Who, alongside Philip Glenister, there's a name that we'll be familiar with, in Steel Town Murders, Rodri Mella, Pren Aria Bryn, sorry about that, everybody, and Sion Daniel Young for Slow Horses. I've never heard of these, I'm afraid. Doctor Who also gets a nomination for the Best Sound Team. Okay, so we got that. And then we've got this one, the writer, Russell T. Davis for Doctor Who, Matthew Barry for Men Up, and Megan Gallagher for Wolf.
When do these get announced? When do they get the information?
I haven't got the details to hand, but we'll be coming back on that. We will do our headlines about that to say who won what. Good. But there you go.
Shall we take bets now that if Russell T. Davis wins his award, he will use his speech to politicize about something and be utterly offensive?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yes.
Well, let's hope he's no chance of winning it at all. Because I likewise Ncuti, because we'll get the same from him. So
yeah. Well, if he by some miracle gets Best Writer, and let's face it, it would be a miracle because those 8 episodes were awful. They were dire. It was a massive flop for him and his career. Awful things that we had to live through. Oh my goodness, as Doctor Who fans, what did we do that for? But yes, if he gets that alert, as we showed on headlines last Sunday, you can't even go to his Pride without giving off a rant. There will be another one. I guarantee you he'll stand there and he'll do it all again. So watch out for that, everybody. And, we, of course, will be poised. We will be poised to report on whatever crap he talks about if he gets on that stage. Best actor for 6 out of 8 episodes. LOL, says Richard. I know.
Can the public vote on these things at all? Are you allowed to vote, or that just?
No, it's the industry, isn't it? The BAFTA. These ones are the industry.
So you can't get in. Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one's the industry. Yeah. We've got here from Simon L. Editing part. I could probably do a better job. Also, where is the color grading award? Why do we colorists get overlooked? Actually, it wasn't the best, to be honest. So no wonder. But it's a good point, Simon. Simon is a colorist, in case you don't know. He does a lot of work in the industry. Yes, and that hasn't even. There's so much now, though, isn't there, guys? That the industry has given out. Simon, you know, there's a case of like, you know, you can even do. Gosh, there's so much. All the traditional stuff there, but they're gradually building on it with all this new stuff that's coming in through technology. So maybe one day you will get that. Stephen's asking, you are kidding. Best actor for what? Over the top emotions? And Divine Dragon, hello, DD. Low standards for these Welsh BAFTAs. Matthew's in shock as well. Sit down, love. Sit down, breathe. Everybody sit down and breathe. Best writer? What? And Legion of James, actor. Laugh, laugh, laugh. Did they need to make a tick box nomination? Ah, look, Hugh Janus is saying to me, Slow Horses is quite good. Well, thank you for telling me you've heard of it, my friend, because I've never have. It's on BBC One, according to that. So, have you two seen this? Have you heard of this?
Never heard of it.
Only other person I've heard of on the list was Philip Glenister, who was obviously in that spin-off from Life on Mars, and the spin-off from that. You know, he's Robert Glenister's brother. Good actor, but that's the only person I know.
Very good actor. Gene
other
Hunt.
than shooting RTD. Yeah.
Gene Hunt's a hero to me.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Anti-hero, maybe.
I like his management style.
Yeah, very of its day. But Hugh, I'm glad that Hugh's at least heard one of those things. Slow Horses is quite good. Thank you for that, mate. Hope you are well. Well, I suppose the chances of Doctor Who winning something are better, says Neville.
Well, there's less competition then potentially, isn't it, to be judged against, I suppose.
I think if it's voted on by the industry, it's just going to be voted on by the Welsh industry, isn't it? So I would imagine the majority of those are so far up Russell T Davies's sphincter that they're just going to vote for him and anything he's touched.
Well, do you know, Ian, just Jordan's agreeing with you. Men Up was good. Someone is blowing smoke up RTD's backside. It wouldn't surprise me because he's so influential, i.e. powerful in the industry, and he's based, his organization, if you like, or his production is based in Cardiff. So they're going to want to keep him on the right side, isn't it? I'm glad you've heard of this. That's Hugh Janus and Just Jordan that I've heard of 2 of these shows. So thank you for that, Just Jordan. I take it they're not just on in Wales, are they? I mean,
just made in Wales potentially, we imagine. Yeah.
Just made there. Yeah. Okay. So thanks for that, Just Jordan. Glad you were. I'm going to have to look them up. All very technical categories except best actor and writer. So nothing groundbreaking, says Matt 532. No, nothing at all. And Kev is saying to you, Ian, yeah, the bets are on. Well,
I'd like to think Millie Gibson might get at least a nomination for something because she was the best thing in the entire series, you know?
Yeah. Well, she didn't, but Matt is agreeing with you. Matt 532 agrees with you. Millie was the best thing in it, and she was snubbed. Yes, she was. Yeah. Now, we have to remember as well, you know, I don't know if it's like this now, but it was back then. People had to submit the nominations. So the Doctor Who production office would have submitted these things, and they would have, you know, submitted their. This is what we think we would like to submit as a nomination award, and these are the people. So Russell was bound to get the nomination. Shooty was bound to get a nomination, and then these other people have impressed the production team to be able to say there and there. That's how it used to work. I wonder if it works that way now, where actually it's the production people that are saying, "Here's our suggestions for awards."
I suppose, like we said, since it's a narrower field, it's Welsh production, it's not UK across the board production. Like I said, there's less competition because if you had a list of best actor, Shooty would be nowhere near on any of that list at all. Why he's on that list, I'm not quite sure.
Well, because he was nominated by his production office, these people around him.
I'm sorry, no, that you can't have that one. And we'll just get some
the thing is as well, if the actors don't win, it doesn't look good for the show. Doctor Who hasn't won any big awards for years now because it's gradually been going downhill, as we all know, and that doesn't look good, does it? You know, even the popular what they call National Television Awards, of which is voted for by the British public, Doctor Who doesn't get a look in. It's nominated all the time. It has been now for several years. It hasn't won anything, and that goes in with my what I always say about the British public don't care about it anymore. They're over it.
Well, remember last year was that for best moment of 2023 with the buying generation. Didn't get it, did they? No.
Because nobody really watched it. Hi, Gilliam. Let's hope he didn't win, because every time he opens his mouth, he loses more grip on reality. Sam is saying, to be fair, he, i.e., what's his name, Shooty Gower, was very good in the episodes he wasn't in.
That's a very good point. Yes, well observed.
Yes, and I think we all preferred them.
I could watch them in more like that, definitely.
Yeah, more. Yeah. Best crying, says Sam. He'll get the best award for that. Yeah. And Legion of James. These are definitely Cope nominations, as the BBC are refusing to accept this series flopped miserably. This is just to prop up their narrative. I totally agree with that. We've got more that's going to come out later on in this particular show, which hopefully Legion of James, you'll see, sort of absolutely, backs that up. Coming up very shortly. Pete, hello, Pete. When were these nominations leaked? I couldn't find a leak. Nearly funny.
Nearly, yeah. That's probably me.
No, I love him. And Mark is saying to us, Mark Jones, as a Welshman, I apologise for this lunacy. I want to say a big thank you to Garbage and Kirsty, who are in the chat with us. Hello, you two. Hope you are well and hope everything's fine. They're making sure that everybody is having a fun time in the chat. So thank you to those two. Because it's getting busy in there already with us already. Jonathan, hello, Jonathan. This is Mr. Jonathan Baldwin. Everybody, Slow Horses is amazing. It's on the front of the new Radio Time. Oh, Jonathan, I'm sorry, I walk past all that stuff because I don't watch television because I think it's all rubbish. But Slow Horses is amazing. I will look at that cover then and find out a bit about it.
And we're not paying £7 for the Radio Times ever again.
No, it's so ridiculous. Every week, who's buying that now? People in Knightsbridge. The lady Knightsbridge might be buying it, mightn't she, when she joins us? We'll have to ask her. But oh, please, do you know? Oh no. But anyway, I'm glad you're enjoying this. This is great. We've got 3 people now that know these other shows. So that's not bad for us, is it? And Garbage is saying the yearly Best Lawn Awards have been inundated with nominations this year. About 6 million former Doctor Who viewers had lots of spare time and was doing what was told, and they were all going out and touching grass. Yeah, absolutely, mate. There you go. Andy's Vinyl is saying, "Hi all, apologise, I am joining late." Well, how dare you?
Outrageous.
Just come and stand in the corner for 5 minutes, please, Andy, with your vinyl. You bought a new vinyl recently. Do let me know. Who's one at gmail.com. Very interested in that now. Oh, look, here we go. Julianne is with us. Slow Horses, Gary Oldman, way better than Doctor Who.
I'm with you now. Yeah.
Oh, so Gary Oldman's in it. Oh, how could they ignore that then? That show then, if he's in that, how could they possibly ignore that at any of the BAFTAs?
If Gat
you can't beat a bit of Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman's superb actor.
Yeah, definitely.
You'd know it was fixed though, wouldn't you? If Gatwa got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if Doctor Who gets it over that one, yeah. Oh, that's a great show for us though, everybody. Make sure you're ready for it. And Lee Smith is giving us all these little awards that are smiling. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Oh, well, listen, that's got the chat going nicely, and that's only story 1. Out of all the stuff we've got here this evening. It's great to see you. And John's just saying to us here, no, we're not joking, John. John is saying, you're joking. It's £7 for the Radio Times.
Yeah, something like that. I think it was the last time we bought a Doctor Who one, I think,
It's quite expensive anyway. And here's Rose. Hello, Rose. By the way, the Welsh Baftas is 6 weeks today. It's either the 20th or the 27th of October. Fine. That's lovely. We might do a show where we report it live. What's going on? Oh no, I don't want to watch 12 hours of nonsense lovies. Oh, I can't be done with them.
No, you just record it. Just fast forward the bits you want to see. That's what I'm going to do.
I know.
It'd be like the BAFTAs by Crystal D, wouldn't it? Put it on.
Oh, they'll probably give her the job of hosting.
Oh,
if RTD had his way, can you imagine?
I'd love if they got Ricky Gervais to do it. That'd be superb. Yeah.
Oh, we'd slaughter them all, wouldn't he? Yeah, because he would just tell you as it is. Well, anyway, there you go. That's story 1 for us here on Headlines tonight, 8th of September 2024. Nice to see you all. Thanks for joining us. Oh, listen, so we're going to move on. Yeah, bless. Let's talk about this chap, shall we? Here's Sylvester McCoy along with Colin Baker and some other person. doing their best impression of Peter Capaldi and John Pertwee here at the launch of this one was the Star Beast, I think, which was last year. Anyway, yeah, but Sylvester has been in Doctor Who news over the last few days. Don't know if you saw this, but last week Sylvester was at the BFI for the usual celebration of the forthcoming season 25 box set on Blu-ray, which is out in October. I'm sure you've all got your pre-orders in there now. They screened, of course, the new version of Happiness Patrol, which is we know here it's
but by mistake, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there was a bit. They played the wrong thing, apparently. Not that Doctor Who fans will know. Well, not no, they will know, but they won't mind. They're not going to mind, are they? But then there was the usual question and answer session, and I want to know what you think about what Sylvester was talking about in this, because Doctor Who has always been political, says Sylvester McCoy. The actor who played the Seventh Doctor insists it was the show's politics that got him hooked in the 1960s. This is reported by radiotimes.com for our show. It has been reported by certain other people. So let's have a look at what Sylvester allegedly says. Here we go. McCoy was speaking at a BFI screening of the 1988 serial The Happiness Patrol to mark the release of Doctor Who The Collection Season 25 on Blu-ray. The story, written by Graham Curry, is set on a world where it's illegal to be unhappy and was designed as a political satire, with the villainess Helen A, played by Sheila Hancock, intended to be a caricature of the then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Addressing how the show's storytelling can incorporate a political slant, McCoy said, in the 60s, I got hooked on Doctor Who, and the reason why was because of the politics in it. But it was subtly put there. The 60s, they started to swing, they started to change. It was a kind of a revolution, a peaceful and wonderful revolution going on. And Doctor Who was the only decent thing on the BBC. My, how things change. I've just added that. At the time, that had anything that talked to young people like me in a political way. If you do drama without any purpose, then it disappears into the ether, and it's just bubblegum, he said. So every drama has to have power, which is the message, and that means it has to have some political debate going on within it. Otherwise, what else is it about, really? It's about people's struggles against something, or they're trying to make something of their lives, and something comes against you. Now, I want to point out at this particular point, as we start talking about this as well, I know what Sylvester is saying here, but I do think this is a case of not understanding what those around him are doing. And I need to be very clear. They always put the Happiness Patrol as one of those examples of a political story, okay? It's more relevant to today's Britain than it was to 1988's Britain, actually, when you look at it.
Oh, God, definitely.
However, the difference is, and we're coming to talk about Matt Smith saying something very similar in a couple of minutes. Why don't think these people are? I think this is a case for these people of, I haven't watched Doctor Who for years, but I know what my Doctor Who did, right?
Yeah.
There is a difference between subtle political messaging and ideological dictates. And what RTD and his cronies are doing, from my point of view, guys and Who viewers, it's not political at all. It's an ideological dictate. You will believe that a TW is a woman. You will believe that a TM is a man. You will use personal pronouns. Get off to your personal pronoun island and go and do it there. You know, you will be told what that's not political. That's ideological. It's totally different. So when somebody like Silva or anybody else is coming out saying, oh, the show's always been political, I think we need to separate that now as a fandom to say, actually, there's political and there's ideological. Do you know what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing new in what Sylvester said, is there, about Happiness Patrol? I mean, Andrew Cartmel was saying it years ago and pointing it out that it was an allegory of Thatcher and things like that. And it was very, very trendy in the 80s, more with the alternative comedians to slag everything Tory and Thatcher off.
Yeah.
It was just the done thing. You weren't seen as a comedian unless you did it. But there's nothing new in that. But there is a huge difference between what was done then. I mean, Pertwee's Doctor was very establishment and had a lot of actual political characters in it. You know, parliamentary private secretaries and ministers and everything else. And the Green Death, even a cabinet office scene in a cabinet room with somebody handing the phone to the Prime Minister. You know, I mean, it's always had political influence, even right through the earlier Tom Baker's with the Brigadier on the phone to the then female Prime Minister way ahead of its time. But what's happening now is not political. What's happening now is pure authoritarian, dictatorish bollocks, frankly.
But even if you take that out of the equation, though, if you look at something like the Green Death, that is obviously an anti-pollution message in there, but it's done in an entertaining way, and it's done with giant maggots and flies and stuff like that, and it's done as entertainment, and it's very subtle. But whereas this isn't subtle at all.
And it's sci-fi as well, isn't it,
doesn't
Paul?
entertain either, you know. So
these whole things that we talk about. I mean, I mean, the examples you've given there in Doctor Who, it's science fiction. You could also actually include Warriors of the Deep as one of the most political shows in the show's history, set in 2084. It's on the way, folks. You know, and that had a political message based around what was happening in reality of the 80s as well, where we were all living on an edge, thinking, "Gosh, is Russia going to do this? Is America going to do this? Where's Britain involved?" It was a parallel, but it was done with that twist, and it wasn't, as you guys are saying in the chat, it wasn't ramming it down the viewer's throat all the time. Who's Lost I saying to you, Ian? But do remember that Pertwee frequently reprimanded the bumbling bureaucrats.
Absolutely, but Pertwee was a bit of a it was a bit of a contradiction sometimes, because he would absolutely berate the politicians, the political types. He really did, but at the same time, he was very much, you know. I was talking to him down the club the other day. He was very much an establishment figure in that respect. But if you take the Green Death, which was moderately political, very anti-pollution, and let's be right, anybody with even a fraction of a brain cell is going to be against pollution. Who wants pollution?
Exactly.
Nobody in the right mind wants pollution. So you're not radical if you say, I'm anti-pollution. Great, I'm pro-breathing. You know, it's something that you should just be. But you compare that to the bloody episode with that woman, where it was they were throwing toxic stuff down a mine in Sheffield, and it produced mutant spiders.
Is this Doctor Who?
Else. Yeah. Well, it had the title, but
you're talking about Chibnall's Doctor Who?
Yeah, and it was the first one that had the Donald Trump.
The famous episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you had these creatures produced by pollution coming up. So it was very, very similar in theme.
We've had that before.
To Green Death. Green Death, 1973. Okay. 50 plus years ago. And it's still there in people's memory.
Yeah.
Who remembers that
element? Yeah.
Who remembers that crap that came out a few years ago from Chibnall? Who really remembers it? It's same sort of message, but one was thrust on you with an ideology and trying to take a cheap political shot like everybody seems to do, because it's let's make him like Donald Trump and we can laugh at him. It's like, it's so puerile and childish. It was typical for that era. Or you've got the Green Death one, which was done properly. You know, I, as a child watching that, I mean, I was terrified by it, but at the same time, you did get this idea that, we shouldn't shove stuff like that underground. It was a real, you learned a lesson, but a proper lesson without getting the politics with it.
But it was also because it was science fiction. I mean, you've got to be careful, because as Doctor Who is a walking example of to this very moment, when you start doing things politically, and I'm going to say that it's ideological stuff now, you will automatically lose 50% of your audience. Now, in Doctor Who's case, it's been more, because in Britain, all that stuff that he's pushing is only supported by a minority. You know, people are also in this country now beginning to become more aware of this nonsense. They call it the culture wars. It's not even culture wars. It's common sense. It's just common sense and decency to say truth and reality is not wing. It's not controversial. It's truth and it's reality. Domgo is saying absolutely, JT. However, RTD thinks that when what he writes is sharp and biting political satire. He's a legend in his own living room. You are right. And as I say, there is more coming up, mate, about that very subject on what you've just said, Domgo, coming up in this particular show. John is also saying to us the politics were more of a springboard for ideas than trying to impose an ideology. Yes, absolutely. How many people saw the Green Death that the guys have given you as an example there, and then went into council work or politics or in the environment and stuff like that? Who went to do their bit there? And I'm not talking about the activists, you know, everybody's, there's too many activists now, and all they're doing is bandwagon jumpers. You see them most weekends around the country now for one reason or another. Clueless, the majority of them, but they're just there with the placard anyway.
They like complaining about it, but they don't like actually trying to develop and do something about it. It's more important for them to obstruct something or block something or stop something or glue their hand to something than it is to actually put their energies into helping develop a solution.
They're nutters. That's what I mean by activists. These activists are in my eyes, as a former activist in the late 80s and through the 90s, when I needed to be, these people don't even deserve that word, actually, because they are just utter loons in my eyes, doing stupid things like that and ruining their own lives deliberately. And nobody cares. Nobody's paying any attention to them anyway after about an hour. Just Jordan is saying it was clever writing and it made you think. Now it's so in your face. And Neville says, yes, it has political undertones. Peter Venkman is going on with Dr. Gender lectures. That's what we're talking about, isn't it? It's all about the lectures. Hi, Russ. Russ has joined as well. Russ Morgan's with us. And Chris Lawley is saying the doctor acting as a horny teenager needing to snog Rogue was not subtle. Yes, exactly. Now, I do have that coming up later on, Chris, so please stay with us. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that. So please remind me about that when we're talking about the BBC. Marjorie, hello, Marjorie. This show now is pushing ideologies in people's faces. It's total dictatorship in the 80s. It was subtle, but still science fiction. That's all it needs to it has to be science fiction. You can get away with quite a lot of messaging if you do it in a science fiction way, as 26 years of superior time travel showed you. And it wasn't every week, it was every now and then, depending on what writer got. I remember John actually saying to me, everybody name dropping in, but John Nathan Turner said to me it was a shock when Sheila Hancock decided to play Helena as Thatcher, and he was actually a little bit because the powers that be at the BBC might have come down on him, and they had every right to, if they were going to do that, because it was our premier at the time. It was our prime minister at the time. Like it or lump it, she was there. She was part of history, Mr. Starmer, who's trying to deny it, of course. But there you go. But she was, like it or not, she was there.
And I mean, that, to be fair, the Happiness Patrol wasn't subtle at all, was it, really? I mean, the fact it was portraying Thatcher, that was definitely on the nose there, wasn't it?
Well, it was. And talking of Miss Hancock, she was there on the panel with Sophie Aldred and Sylvester McCoy, and she had a little bit to say. Now, also bearing in mind that also on the panel was Chris Clough, the director. Now, Chris Clough was just the director, of course, that brilliant piece that was a massive hit at the beginning of the year for ITV, which we've covered, which was Mr. Bates in the Post Office. Massive hit, massive hit. And then Sheila Hancock got into this conversation. Echoing Sylvester's comments, fellow panel attendee Sheila Hancock added, that's what arts and the post office thing and all that does. It tells the nation what's happening. It's our duty to do that. Again, with all due respect, Miss Hancock, it's about how. And the difference is political messaging here and ideology there. And the ideologies can no longer be classed as political in my eyes. That's just shocking because it's untruth, it's lies, and it's dictates. That's there. Your political messaging has to be far more subtle than you will vote for this party, otherwise you're an istophobe or not. And that's what's been creeping into drama. And that's why your industry's in trouble. You're not getting bums on seats in theatres because people are sick of it. You're not getting people watching the television shows as much because people are sick of it. They're finding out their own sources of entertainment now through this glorious platform, for example, which is getting millions and millions and millions of views on some really good content and some really dodgy content as well, let's face it, on this on all the shows that have erupted here since all this stuff started. I just don't understand. These people seem to be a little bit out of the way, so they're justifying, in my eyes, drama has to be a little bit political.
I don't know how she can reconcile Happiness Patrol with Mr. Bates in the Post Office, as per her quote there, because one is a dramatic reconstruction of what actually happened in real life, and the other one has a walking sentient licorice allsort.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and
That was representing the head of Bertie Bassett, so wasn't it? Really, wasn't it?
and what fuss that got as well. Andy's vinyl, the classic era stories were used political observation, not ideological instruction. And I think we should all start passing the word here now. When we've got these idiots that start to argue with us, oh, Doctor Who, no, we're being political, put them right and saying, to an extent, politics, yes. Ideology, no. And as Ian has said many, many times on this show, for 10 years, we had a gay producer in JNT. God love him. God rest his soul. Not once did he go down the road RTD has done, and he could have done. He could have pushed gay rights all the way through that, but no, he was professional. He just produced a science fiction show. No matter what you think about it, the truth was he just produced Doctor Who for all those years, the last few years, with his arm behind his back, and basically, do this or you're out. He
still had respect for his source material, though, and he had respect for the legacy of the program. Russell T Davies has got nothing than that. He thinks he's bigger, and he can do what he likes.
I've just seen Pooh's Lost Eyes saying, "Ooh, I'm sorry for swearing. I get so excited. I totally understand. It's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it, Pooh's Lost Eyes. Don't worry. If I put something up there by accident, I won't read the word because we're that sort of channel. Yes, terribly British and very Downton Abbey. Yes. Dave Harding is saying to us, the key to dealing with politics is to know when to use allegory to highlight the problem, to avoid alienating members of the audience. I totally agree with you, David. And especially in entertainment. When it comes to something like Doctor Who, I don't think there should be anything that's going to get people switching off. And at the moment, because it's not even political, it's ideology all the way through. As we saw from the Chibnall episodes to the Star Beast with that famous and much criticized scene about pronouns to a blooming alien, and then how that ended with the resolve of TWs can save the universe, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not science fiction. That's just bad, lazy writing, and that's an ideological dictate behavior, I think. It's not even politics, because what rights do people not have? Give me the answer, somebody. You can't, because we all have the same rights in the United Kingdom. I can't talk for other countries, but I can talk for this country. And it's just absolute nonsense.
If they spent more time trying to do an entertaining show and not tick boxing all the way, it would be a much more interesting show,
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Matt is saying to us here, Matt532, I think the messaging is so blatant, it's not letting the audience think on it, consider the message and come to their own interpretation of the story. The problem we've got, though, Matt, though, is, as I'm trying to highlight, is a lot of the messaging today is just absolute nonsensical. Non-binary. Human beings cannot be non-binary. End of story. You're male or female. It's all in here. So why should the rest of us go with a minority's delusion when they should actually be seeking psychological help, in my opinion? I'm not convinced, and I don't like this. So I think what Sylve and Sheila Hancock are understanding by political, for what they're saying, I think we need to clarify that some of the aspects that are in new Doctor Who, which they obviously won't be watching, are not politics. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah, perfect sense.
Oh, good.
I can agree with what Sheila's saying about the arts can do political things and can help, raise points. A drama like The Post Office, as Ian said, was really telling the facts of something. So to highlight an issue in some way, it can be a good platform. But I agree with what you're saying, JT. It has to be done in a certain way. There's not ideology. It's more subtle. If it's going to tell a message, it has to be in a way that's entertaining as well.
Yeah, and it also has to be. Doctor Who's supposed to be science fiction family drama. So why these adults are pushing their own agendas into this show and not even being clever about it shows me that they're not trying to now, like once upon a time, they're not standing there going, once upon a time they would write something in and saying, look at this has to be spoken about, like with the Post Office drama, for example. That is political, and it has to be. But now it's just all fantasy. We believe in this, so you should, and if you don't, you're an optimist or a phobe. Oh, bugger off. I can't be done with you all anymore. It's time. And I'm hoping that the worm is turning. I'm hoping the tide is turning here. I'm hoping, because more and more of us are becoming aware of it. I'm saying, hang on a minute, don't tell us we have to follow your ideological, nonsensical beliefs. Hello to Charlie Silvestri. It is nice to see you. Just Jordan is right. Instead of room for thought, it's more of you must follow the rules or be ostracized. Exactly. And they love it, don't they? They absolutely love it. I'm going to say now, they've just tried and failed with Neurotics channel, where the people from Star Wars didn't like what he and his chums were saying about the Acolyte. So these people banded together to try and get them demonetized. And YouTube quite rightly turned around and said, look, it's an opinion or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. No, it's everything's fine. But they love it when they try to go after these and try and get people cancelled. And yet certain people say cancel culture doesn't exist. Give me a break. Leo James Ward. Hiya, Leo. Activists who are courting the same combination of forces that brought down the Shah of Iran in 1979. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't know. That's politics. That is politics. But you wouldn't get that into an actual story for Doctor Who, for example. You could do a big proper research drama for it. They probably have. Or you could do a pastiche action Hollywood blockbuster for it. But does it belong in Doctor Who? No.
You could do a Doctor Who where there was that going on in the background, where it was sort of like around the events, because that's been done countless times, hasn't it? But you wouldn't want to get closely involved in that.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Unless they wanted to put a fatwa on RTD, then, I'd go ahead, write it. I don't mind.
Well, we all know what RTD wants to write. And as I keep saying on this show, would you just bloody well bugger off to Channel 4 and get it done and leave Doctor Who alone and leave it to somebody who knows how to do the show rather than you? Because you're not wanted, quite frankly. Gone. Julianne, what you're saying to us looks like the Radio Times using Sylvester's comments about his era disingenuously to infer RTD's Who is the same as it's always been and unhappy fans are in the wrong. It's a very good point, and I agree. I do agree. I think when you see these things which come back from Sylvester or Bonnie or Katie or whoever it is, it's basically that. I do agree with this. Basically, that media saying, oh, look, what they're doing now is no different to what they were doing in the 60s or 70s or 80s, when it's completely different. Completely different. And those of us that were there can see that because we were there when it was broadcast. We were young enough to remember it. We know the influence it had on us. When we look at the stuff now, it's full of lies. It's as simple as that. And Pooh's Lost Eyes is saying very eloquently, Happiness Patrol is still a very loose allegory. It's not like the modern show where they're mentioning Trump by name. Did they? Mm-hmm. Oh, did they?
Well, they did. Trump wasn't in it, but he was mentioned as a rival to the other American character who was going to be running for president as well at one point. So they mentioned him by name, but he wasn't in it. If that makes sense.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that. That's shocking.
That was in the Spider one, wasn't it, Ian? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. And then they brought him back in one of the Christmas Dalek ones.
Yeah.
I
quite liked his character. I thought he was quite funny, but I can understand, it might
that actor though. That's the actor from Sex and the City, wasn't it?
That's right.
He had a big hit with that. I can't remember his name, but at the time he was massive for playing Mr. Big, wasn't he, in that show?
Yeah. And then he got cancelled, didn't he, for something he did? So.
Oh well, really? That's such a shame.
Well, in that case, here he was doing a Trump pastiche, dancing with the devil, and then it turned on him.
Yeah.
As it always does. They always eat their own, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
they must have indigestion by now, Ian. I have to say, but
you always hope that it actually choke itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so reach for the Gaviscon. That's it.
What I'm thinking about here is that these people that are looking at this, as I say, I just want to make it clear. My opinion is that they're asked particular questions by interviewers, as Pooh's Lost Eyes and others were saying, that to try and justify the fact that this new version is doing what Doctor Who's always done. It hasn't, and I think it's about time we made that very clear, because people like Sylvester and anybody else aren't watching the new series. I bet you they're not even looking at it, and just ridiculous, or too frightened to speak out. But before we move on to Matt Smith, that was, of course, Sylvester and Sheila Hancock talking, as I say, at the BFI last weekend about the launch of season 25 on Blu-ray, the collected editions, all that sort of stuff. It's out next month. However, if you are interested, and right before that, you can join us this Wednesday for the first of our brand new series of season overviews, where we will be discussing season 25, our favorite moments. our non-favourite moments, our recollections, our memories, and having a good old chit-chat about season 25. We'll also be talking about what everybody is interested in looking at on the new box set. So come and join us this Wednesday, the 11th of September, 8 o'clock UK time, the usual time here on Who's Views, with your thoughts, memories, and what you're looking forward to if you've pre-ordered that box for season 25. It's up on the channel for you now to like. Ta-da! There you go. Something else for you. Another new show from us here. Going to move on now to Matt Smith, who again, I think is a little bit, I don't know, same as Sylvester. It's another case of not watching it now, not watching the series now, because he's hit the news this week for this. Again from the radiotimes.com. Matt Smith, people that attack Doctor Who blow my mind. What's not to love, he says. Well, you're going to love this channel then, Matt, I tell you, because we could give you a list of what's not to love about Doctor Who. Now, I want to point out that this particular piece of work, whatever you want to call it, was written by Radio Times senior drama writer David Craig. There he is. David is a writer at radiotimes.com. Surprise, surprise. And he joined the team after graduating with a BA in journalism studies, says it all, from the University of Sheffield. David has covered a wide variety of shows across the drama, sci-fi and fantasy genres with specialist knowledge in all things Marvel, from the blockbuster movies to the Disney Plus shows. Since joining the team, he has hosted virtual Q&As with the cast of Netflix hit The Last Kingdom, ITV's Professor T, and acclaimed screenwriter Armando Iannucci. Prior to working at radiotimes.com, David had written for Starburst magazine, Multiversity Comics, Forge Press, and What Culture.
He's not the one that said the early annuals were naff, is he?
No, that was Doctor Who magazine.
All right.
But anyway, I wanted you to know who wrote this piece, because I just cannot tolerate the way that he opens up this article, because this is not true. And if it was true, I didn't see any example of this. And this shows you how these alleged journalists all band together with the same sort of modern day, whatever the latest bandwagon is, because take a look at this. As the first black man to play the role, Gatwa has faced racist abuse since his casting was announced, while some viewers have also turned on the show for its inclusion of LGBTQ plus themes. Well, listen, Mr. David Craig, I'm a gay man, and I am very happily criticizing the TQ cult themes in this. So if you want to come on the show and discuss it, get in touch. whosviews1@gmail.com. You are very welcome to come and just talk about this. Let's carry on with this, shall we? It's wound me up, Who viewers, I have to say, but it carries on. In an interview with The Times, Matt Smith explained that he couldn't fathom why certain people have chosen to take such aggressive stances on the show. Those debates reduce it to a place that it doesn't need to be in, he said. People that attack Doctor Who blow my mind. It's about an alien who is cool and travels around the universe saving civilizations. What's not to love, says Matt.
He's not
It
watched
was
it
in your day.
He's not watched it.
He's
No.
not watched it.
It's not about that at all anymore.
No, it's not. But it was in your day, Matt.
Yeah.
Probably the last great set of actual science fiction stories, because this crept in, actually started to creep in with him, but it got more involved with Capaldi, and then we lost it, didn't we? We lost it, and it's not come back now. But Mr. Smith is obviously, as you guys say, he's not watching the show.
When was Gatwa ever on the receiving end of racist abuse for being cast as Doctor Who? Because I personally was quite happy that a black guy had been cast as Doctor Who. As long as he was a decent actor, he could have been pink for Well,
I was just glad it's a bloke,
blue,
to be fair. Whether he's black or white or whatever, it didn't matter. You know, to get, as you said, a decent actor to play it, and that's not happened. So.
I think the biggest thing for us all was that the Doctor was taken back to being a male. Now we're going to get called ists and phobe for that sort of not for that sort of stuff now, but it failed with a female Doctor. The Doctor is not a female character. End of story. He never was, and it works best as a male-fronted character. Simple as that. You know. I don't even believe had they cast a decent actress who understood the role, it would have worked then. I just don't think Doctor Who as a woman. Even the idea just doesn't settle to me. It didn't in 1981. It doesn't today. But here we've got this stuff here where they're saying all this sort of stuff. And these people, here's Matt coming out saying, oh, it's this and this and this. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. I mean, these people have not been associated with Doctor Who. He's too busy. He's too busy, isn't he, and to do anything else. John is saying to us here, the racism claim is just a way to get some sympathy for the show. I think it's because, John, the big thing they want to do is these people want to make people out to be ots, is, and phobes. And that's a lot of these journalists are now, alleged journalists. They're all doing it. I mean, they'll look at people like all of us here on the show and you guys in the chat, and we are is and phobes and we're far right and all this. So it's absolute nonsense. It's nonsense. We just care about this show. That's all. We are fans.
The reference that Matt Smith made to the Doctor being cool, I think, shoot, he's got potential to be cool. He's a cool guy, but it's all the other stuff he's not doctory in the episodes that makes him not the Doctor. That's my problem, you know.
He can wear cool clothes.
Yeah,
but I think that's where it ends, because when it comes to the personality, it's just hyper camp. Yeah, but I think these people have sat down, or this interviewer has sat down with Matt Smith, and I don't think he's asked him questions as such. I think he's probably said, "Hi Matt, Ncuti Gatwa has faced lots of racist abuse since being cast as Doctor Who. What do you think about that?" And it's a response to that planted line, I think. I don't think he said, "What do you think of Doctor Who?" And he said, "Oh, this is terrible. Why are people?" I don't think Matt has gone straight in at that level. I think they've guided his answer by phrasing a question, by saying something that is blatantly untrue has been happening. That's what I think.
Well, they're always these interviews are always stacked against personal interviewing. That interview with Hartnell from the 10th Planet, where he's in Panto, and the man attacks Hartnell about being grumpy, etc. That's all stacked up to make Hartnell look stupid. Yeah. And this is what this is like, isn't it? So it's always stacked against the interviewee, isn't it?
And of course, we don't know. This is why I prefer. Even with video filmed interviews now, you can see where the edits are. And when you can't really say anything now because they will adjust it deliberately to suit them. And I don't like
them. I think it's called. Yes.
I just don't like this at all. And to quote Matt Smith, who hasn't been in Doctor Who for years, and say he's going to talk from his experience of what Doctor Who is. He's also going to talk politically. Let's face it, because we know which side of the fence he is on now, and it's the side of the well, he's getting towards allegedly the far left. You know, he's going to be there with Tennant at some point, unfortunately. But they're all out of touch. It's like with Sylve. They're out of touch. It's not political anymore because you haven't seen the episodes. And I would just wonder if he looked at the episode, he wouldn't recognize the Doctor Who he was in. He wouldn't recognize the quality, the depth, or even the character. And you would have to go back to Capaldi's time to understand why we're all peed off with this thing right now. That's years worth of getting annoyed and frustrated with it all. Neville is saying, I'm inclined to cut Matt Smith some slack. It should be in theory, but he's a busy guy and can only observe from a distance. Exactly. That's what I mean. He's giving an opinion about what his experience was in Doctor Who and what his doctor was. Kev is here with us saying, it's because we were told to go and touch grass. Great point, Kev, and what I want to point out, because these alleged journalists never point out that Ncuti Gatwa, like his predecessor, told the fan base of the show to go away. That never gets considered. Now, in this crazy world we're living in now, shouldn't that be looked at as well, to be able to say, why are you telling your fan base of a show to disappear? You're only a blip in this show, although I do believe he will be the last one, and thank goodness, fingers crossed. But I just don't get that. Why would you tell your fan base to disappear?
Yeah, it's madness.
No, it is.
Because
so he was at fault.
You do it because you're stupid.
Yeah.
And I honestly think they are stupid and insular. They live in that bubble and they can't see outside of it. They wouldn't cope outside of it. We know they're absolutely spineless, but they are stupid with it. I'm convinced.
David Harding, to be fair to Matt Smith, the show was like that when he played the Doctor. It's just not the same animal anymore. That's what we're saying. And hello and welcome to Who's Views to Rebecca Burgess. Nice to see you. Just because you were happy, it doesn't mean a lot of other people have made him horribly racist comments against him.
Yeah.
Just because you were, well, I mean, that's the point. I mean, I didn't see any. Did you, Rebecca? I did not see any sort of. I mean, the fact was, when his announcement came along, I think there was an awful lot of relief of going, oh wow, okay, and there was an awful lot of excitement. But then he had to go off and mouth off, and then he told us through magazines that he must have assumed Doctor Who fans were never going to look at. Go and touch grass. Don't bother watching the show. We don't want you. I'm paraphrasing now, but you know what I mean.
Just like Whittaker did. You know, before she'd even filmed the scene, I'm not here for the male gaze. Oh, by the way, all you males, don't be afraid of my gender. I mean, how patronising. How patronising.
Did she, Ian, don't watch the show. Rebecca was also asking, is there any news of the next series? No. And as we reported last week, Russell T Davis has said, don't be standing by your bed right now for any more news because it won't be made and won't be made public. He says, until well after season 2 has finished airing. We don't know when series 2 is going to be aired. So you're going to have to wait for that one. If you're looking forward to the 3rd series with this lot, it's not, no decision is going to be made, and it's not going to be made public anytime soon. I'm so tired of the ism narrative they keep pushing out simply to deflect criticism. The only racism I see is the immediate assumption that criticism, yes, and that's the exact point. Criticism is, in any way, you're either a ist, a phobe, or an ot if you criticize them and their minority, fanatical, ideological beliefs. We know that. We've had it since that particular day when she was announced. It started then and it's continuing today. It's absolute nonsense, isn't it?
Well, a bit like with Shooty, when Jodie turned up, I was trying to get, I don't want a female doctor. I'm saying that now, but I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, see what came of it. And it was much the same as my response I have for Shooty. It wasn't that great, so it wasn't Doctor Who, so I gave it a try. But
no. Well, good for you for trying it. I didn't even give it that because I just didn't like Chris Chibnall, and I knew it was going to be problematic from the moment I thought, this is going to be nonsense. And then I knew that he'd also do something to upset fans all the way, and he did 3 years of it. 3 years of upsetting fans. Yeah. Rose, I don't like people telling me what to watch, do, think, or have an opinion of my own, not what you say, do, or think. But that's what's creeping in now, especially here in the UK. We are getting to that point where you have to say this or you're judged. You have to think like this or you're judged. You have to bend the knee and agree with this, or you're fired, or you're taken to court, or you're ostracized, or you lose friends, or your life is made very difficult. That's the situation we're in now, Rose, isn't it? And it's absolutely disgraceful. These people are exactly what they tell everybody else are. They are the dictators. They're the ones with the issues, and they're very nasty. They are utter dictators.
It's just really sad. It's just really sad that you can have a disagreement with someone, but then you get thrown insults at you for disagreeing. That's just not any form of democracy or debate, is it at all? It's just
maturity. Or maturity, to be quite honest.
No, it's not.
It's very immature. But I do think as we sort of like plough through 2024 and we have a new government that is just basically locking anybody up. Like
center,
like the Happiness Patrol.
There's no room for that, Ian. It's not going to happen.
But I do think the more we go on, the less and less and less impact the term ist, phobe, ot, and everything else that goes with it is going to have, to the point where they're without power. They'll just be bits of tissue paper thrown around. They'll have no weight, no clout. It won't silence anybody. And when they find that hard left, that far left that we have, when they find out that those insults that they throw around don't silence people anymore, then you're going to see a very large industrial scale loosening of the left-wing bowels, I think.
Well, we'll soon see.
Quite interesting to watch.
I don't know. I'm hoping the worm's turning up. I just want to say, talking about disagreeing, I disagree completely, Matt, with your thing. I have no problem with the Doctor being a woman. It just needs to be done right. No, the Doctor is a male Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey. That's it. Go and watch 26 years of superior time travel. Male. They've only done it to bend the knee and tick a box. I also want to say to Rebecca here, this seems like a very hateful place, and I doubt you guys even know what date season 10 finished filming. Which season 10 would you be referring to, by the way? Listen, if you don't like what we're saying, bugger off. Don't watch it. No big deal. If you don't like it, don't watch the show, Rebecca. But you define what you mean by that word, because I can get back to you completely and utterly. You define what hate means, and I'll tell you what it means to me as a gay man who has to put up with the TQ cult agenda, which is homophobic and misogynistic. Now, if you don't want to listen to it, don't watch the show. It's as simple as that. I won't miss you. Thank you.
And it was about February 1973 that Series 10 finished filming.
Yeah, there you go. But which one? I mean, Rebecca might be one of these new Whoers. I mean, where are we up to now with this new version? Series
they're not
1.
Tell me they're not called Whoers, are they? That's very un-PC, isn't it?
No, I think they're just called immature.
Now,
But the
Viewers
new
is a great name
the
for
new
Doctor Who
series-
fans. That's great. I love that. Yeah.
The new series, Paul, is series 1 of Disney Who. Series 1. It's not even anywhere near season 10 now. It's number 1. So don't throw things like series 10. You won't even know what series 10. Oh, grow up and get a grip. Unbelievable. Marjorie is saying to us here, Doctor Who was always a male and it should stay that way. Of course it should. Absolutely. And just Jordan, I remember this. I was initially very excited because I loved him in Sex Education, and that changed very quickly because with the writing, Just Jordan, all it came off with, wasn't it, was a very bad Eric in space, a very bad version of Eric. Getting along to be that, I'm expecting him to be quite camp in series 2, like Eric was.
What,
So
like
there
he's
we
not
go.
camp already, you mean?
Well, I think it was getting there. I
Yes.
think with all that hunting and nonsense, but I think
Yeah.
it's going to get worse.
When it
Well,
was
we're going to
announced,
be twerking next season, aren't we? So that's
Oh.
coming. So yeah.
when he was announced, somebody I worked with at the time said they'd watched Sex Education. I never had, and they said, "Oh, he's really good in that. I think he's going to be all right." I took that as a positive. Somebody who'd seen his acting and I hadn't, so took that on board. And then I didn't work with them anymore. They'd moved off, and
Was it that bad, Ian?
I caught up with them a bit just after this series 1 had finished. He said, "You're not still watching that expletive deleted show, are you? Because I've seen him in it and it's absolutely crap." So he'd even turned against this actor that he liked. He just thought it was absolute bilge, which of course was accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. Dalakai is pointing out here, we mustn't mention the comments from that Jinx character. Yes, because he was absolutely ridiculous as well, wasn't he? Oh, for every Doctor Who family lose, another 5's going to take them over, which we'd heard before, and it didn't happen. So what planet is he on? Planet
Well, we're talking of camp, JT. I foresee coming to season 2, there'll be a twerk off between Maestro and the Doctor at some point towards the end. That'll be the finale, I'd imagine.
Well, that'll be number 3, won't it? Because
Yeah,
I think things are gearing up so much for RTD, as we saw last week on our show here when he was at Manchester Pride. I think he won't be able to help himself but to say to his friend Jarek, "Would you like to come back into the show?" And we'll really annoy them with a script that's going to really annoy all these hateful people, just like Rebecca did.
Well, I reckon he's coming back in season 2. I think that because they split it into 2 halves, I think it feels like one season, and they just cut it down the middle. And this is going to be it's going to.
You know what though? If he and his people would be saying it now. They would be saying it now, because he's such a show off, and he's been on.
Once they get into publicity drive, Jinx will be in the forefront of that, surely, for season 2.
Well, he's been on various shows now, and he's been talking about Doctor Who and stuff like that in America, because of course none of us in Britain know who he is apart from Minority. He hasn't been on any of our shows here. Bad bit of stunt casting there, RTD, because nobody here knows. But I reckon he wouldn't have been able to keep his ego in check. And he would have said something. Oh, I'm in the next one as well, love. You know what I mean? It's another. Even if he is, it's going to be another nail in the coffin of this show. It's going to.
Well, I can see a predictive storyline of Maestro having Rogue as a prisoner, and the Doctor has to rescue Rogue from Maestro. And
we just stop giving him ideas.
Sorry, that's what I can see coming. I'm just Can you?
But you know what? He won't, because he's not that good anymore, and he won't do this. But I'm quite concerned you're that invested in these characters.
I'm not. I'm just predicting the horrible nightmarish future of the show. That's all. Yeah.
There is no future.
I think he needs therapy, JT.
I need something.
There is no
probably a
future
drink.
to this show. This show is on a countdown now to its total and utter demise, and I mean it this time. There will be no Wilderness Year this time, because none of us care about bringing it back, and it's not grabbed a new audience. It will never come back. This is it. And well done to everybody that's actually trying to kill it and strangle it. Let it go. Just let it go now.
Davis's legacy won't be the fact that he brought Doctor Who back in 2005. It'll be that he killed it in 2025, I think.
I'm very surprised that isn't happening now. And I think it's because people around him, as well as the media, won't allow that to happen at this time. Because when it does finish, they'll do it in a way where, it was planned. Yeah. It was all planned. And as I say, we've got a story that will tie like that coming up very shortly in this particular show.
If only JNT had that degree of support.
Oh God, yeah.
And
And
that,
money.
that financial support and the general support
Yep.
and everything else that
Yep.
just plow. What could we have had? Because it
The
was
money and
really getting good again, wasn't it?
if he'd had the support and the money, he would have made the show huge. But
Oh,
he
yeah.
would never have gone down that route of pushing in what he believed into the show, because
No.
it was all about the show, wasn't it? It was more, he understood show business better than any of these people, in my opinion. But wow, there you go. So that's all stemmed from the fact that, you know, these people, Sylvester McCoy, Matt Smith, have been talking, and you know, this is what they're saying, and it's I genuinely believe it's because they no longer know what Doctor Who's about. But to say things like the lead man got racist abuse, I don't believe that. Doctor Who fandom is not like that, no matter. And I think it's just a case that these idiots have gone on to social media and seen people say, oh, this happened and this happened. They haven't actually done the research properly. So let me tell you directly, to anybody that stumbles across this, that was not true. I have never seen any evidence on that. The day that was announced, it was very welcome. It's people like you that have brought that into this. And how dare you? How dare you bring it into our special fandom? You know, how dare you decide that we're all is-phobes and not, simply because we won't bend the knee to ideology? How dare you? Don't dare. If you don't want to report on the show properly, don't bloody well report on it. Leave it to people like us that know exactly what we're talking about. That's what I say. Gosh, that's so annoying, these people. I really can't be done with them at all. You know, Rick is with us as well. Hello, Rick. It is nice to see you. And yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely that.
Yeah.
But of course, racism in that direction is okay, of course.
It seems to be, yeah.
That is the extent of equality in our society, where everybody's fair and nice to each other.
Philip is telling me Doctor Who will not die. It will just won't be made by the BBC. It will live in fan films, audios, etc., and made better.
Shameless plug there.
Yeah, shameless plug there. I am going to disagree. I will disagree, because eventually our generation will, as is inevitable, die out. And there isn't another one coming up behind us, apart from these idiot ones that will do something about, oh, but with the public, it will never resonate, and it will never be that popular again. It's not going to be able to come back. It will not survive. And that I'm just going to put it out there, Philip. I totally, genuinely believe this is its last shot, and it's not worked. And these are the dying days of Doctor Who.
Well, we've talked about the Doctor Who magazine failing as well. As fandom feels like it's collapsing around us, it's really quite sad. You know?
Yeah, it is. It really is, because it's been going for God knows how long now, 40,
Forever. Yeah,
50 years, something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Hello, Komodo. It's a celebrity lovey club. Most are morons. I'm not going to even argue with that. And Legion of James, they have brought it to all fandoms and have pretty much destroyed all the fandoms as a result. Yeah,
it's crazy because it's a cash cow for all these franchise owners. It's really daft to defecate on the fandom. Really is.
Yeah. Just Jordan is saying to us, once it's off the air, we'll just have to arrange a Who's Views convention.
Sounds good.
What a good idea.
Stay tuned.
I can hear the wheels turning there. Yeah. Yeah.
You just don't know what meetings I've had this week, do you?
Kieran, we're not going to find out, you know, we're going to be teased all the time.
It's going to be another one of those things that we just lose sleep over, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You know, we're having those support phone calls at 3 a.m. that JT doesn't know about. I almost called you JNT there. See, now that's what you're doing.
God love him. Sometimes I do miss him. You know, Kieran, the timeless child has got to be completely retconned and dismantled from the history and the mythology. It's surprising how many millions of Doctor Who fans agree with you. RTD had the chance, Kieran, and didn't bother.
And they could have done with one line. They could have said it's the master, simple as that, and just made it.
Or he could have ignored it in the first series, done proper Doctor Who, got everyone back, and put in a line in the second series, or something like that. I mean, from the British public's point of view, nobody cares, so it wasn't relevant. But a little line in series 2 in a nice episode or something to say, oh, I found all that was nonsense or something like that, and just brush it away. But no, because it was his friend who did it, it was the rest of us that have to suffer. They just will not learn, will they, Kieran? They're not listening. And Richard Moore is saying to us, JNT would have knocked it out the park with all the details that we were talking about before. He absolutely would have done. I know. And the Thinking. Hello, my friend. It is nice to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I must have missed all this racism as I was out touching grafts, which is what we were told to do by our new leading man. And as you know, Thinking, lots of us did. Listen, I just want to say hello to the Thinking. Keep in touch. Thank you so much. The Thinking sends me lots of little bits and pieces, some of which I've usually seen. I feel really guilty when I say to him, I've got that already. But it's good to know, and it's good that the Thinking send them in case I miss them, because I am busy. So I do appreciate it, mate. And thank you for joining us on tonight's show. Lovely to see you. Welcome, 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 welcome. Listen, if you are new to the channel, please make sure you have subscribed to the channel. If you are not new to the channel, please make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. Because I don't know what's going on there, but a lot of you have pointed out that you're unsubscribed and then you've had to resubscribe. So keep checking. And thank you all for joining us tonight. It's Sunday. It's 8th of September. For all of those of you who like Star Trek, it is Star Trek Day as well. So happy Star Trek Day to you if you're a Star Trek fan as well.
Yes, may the force be with you.
Yeah, 3 years younger than Doctor Who. Doctor Who is on the road.
I love R2D2 too. Yeah.
Listen, Domgo, stop giving them ideas. Doctor Who is on the road for a crossover with Hollyoaks. Of course it blooming is. It's almost there now, isn't it? You know, I mean, we've had all that stuff from the Star Beast on. Of course it is. I mean, God knows what they've got coming up. I cannot even imagine what's coming in 2025. It'll give me nightmares. Chris, whoa. Imagine Pertwee snogging Sarah Jane. It's so wrong. They're complaining of Shooty and Rogue is homophobic and racist. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. If you complain about that, even me, as a same-sex attracted man, you are not a phobe or an internalized phobe. I think they called me on that. So just absolute nonsense. Whatever that means.
The thing about it, it's nothing to do with. We don't want any form of sexuality at all from any gender, any whatever, any specific sex or attraction at all. It's just
exactly
asexual. That's what we want.
Which is why the original Doctor Who, the far superior 26-year run, worked because you knew it was safe to put the kids in front of. You knew you could come home from work and sit in front of it and not have to be preached to or worried or have to deal with any of that, because the Doctor is an asexual Time Lord. That's this is what this modern version, for me, with its soap opera insistence, I'm more in tune with Hollyoaks than Doctor Who has done. It's killed it because it's not science fiction anymore. I just long for the days of science fiction again. What have I had recently? June at the movies. No, I had that. I had something else recently. Alien. I know a lot of you don't like the new Alien film, but I went and enjoyed it because I thought, I'm enjoying this, and I'm not being preached to. Terrified Monk. I told someone earlier this year that I was watching Doctor Who. All he could say was, I'm sorry. Doesn't surprise me, though. It doesn't surprise me. Really, really, really doesn't. Duckula's with us as well. Hello, Duckula. I was watching an episode of yours the other day, and by that I do mean Duckula from Cosgrove Hall, by the way. So yeah. Oh gosh, well that was a bit of a heated debate, everybody. I hope you're enjoying that. We haven't stopped yet because we're moving on to even more. If you are one of the many millions in the United Kingdom right now thinking about, should I cancel my BBC TV license, then we've got the story for you as to why you possibly should. Yes, indeed. The BBC has lost millions of TV license view payers in the last few years because of many, many reasons. Oh, the next story is one of them. This is what they're paying. This is what they're paying for through the TV license fee. Look at this. From the Standard, which used to be called the London Evening Standard, BBC is to invest £80 million annually in creative diversity and raise representation. Comes after a review by the Sir Lenny Henry Centre for Media and Diversity has made a number of recommendations to the BBC. Now, I just want to at this point say a huge thank you to Andy Gledhill. Thank you for this, because Andy sent this to me saying you might want to look at this for headlines. You are absolutely right. Here we go. This is just what the BBC needs: more inclusivity and diversity and representation in its bloody programme planning and shows and the way it runs things. Let's get into this then from the London Evening Standard, which is now called The Standard. I wonder if there's something going on about that as well. The BBC has announced it is to invest £80 million annually in creative diversity projects and raise representation targets in production teams from 20% to 25%. The Centre's recommendations included publishing annual intersectional analysis, quote, urgent large-scale intervention, unquote, to create, quote, transformative inclusion, unquote, in the industry for people with disability, and the abolition of catch-all terms and vocabulary for ethnicity.
Sorry?
What?
What's that?
What?
Can you translate that for me? I didn't quite understand that. Sorry.
I have no clue.
I think you can just translate that as
bollocks.
And it's the thing is,
I've got more coming, by the way, on this. By the way, stay with us.
It's not representation, because if they're increasing from 20 to 25, 20 is already overrepresentation. I think the racial minorities in this country tot up to about 17% of the population. 20 is already oversubscribed. 25%, that's not representation, that's social engineering.
Yes, this is just pure bending the knee. This is not what the BBC needs. This is another thing, and it's all coming from people that pay the TV license fee. It's all coming from this. And there's nobody paying the TV license fee. This is it. This is the beginning, real beginning of the end here, because people are looking at the BBC now and going, oh my God, what am I watching? Switch off. You know, it's just ridiculous. Let's carry on with the story, though, because we've got that bit going there. With this, all this word here, I just want to mention at this point as well that I was around in the 90s when this diversity and inclusion stuff started. We called it something else back then. It wasn't known as DEI. It was actually called common sense. And I was around in business at the time when it became more aware we're not employing enough people. We're not giving enough opportunity to people with a disability, for example. It was only recently in the last, 20 years that buildings were forced to say you have to have a wheelchair ramp, for example, which was disgraceful. All buildings should, but we didn't because we were an older country. And people were becoming more aware of this, and we were doing our bit. I think now it's being actually pulled out of shape in businesses and organizations now, so anybody can throw themselves into this DI, including the TQ cult and all these nonsensical idiots who call themselves non-binary. You're not. Get over it. You know, all this. Oh, you've got to do this. Oh, I've got to bring my authentic self to work. No, you don't. Just get on with job. We don't care. You know, that's where I think this has come from. But it was absolutely right back in the 90s that we start to do things to be able to say, oh, right, we don't have any wheelchair tables here. We can't get a wheelchair in. Oh my God, we can't get a wheelchair up through into the reception area. You can't even get in. I think that was absolutely right. But I do think it's all gone out of hand. We'll carry on now with the story. The BBC, that's what I'm saying, though, with all its nonsense. It carries on. The BBC says an investment will aim to ensure that the stories told on air are authentically reflective of audiences across the UK. Its 80 million investment will be spent on TV and radio projects and will focus on, quote, aligning diverse on-air storytelling with stronger off-air representation, unquote, in senior production roles and leadership within production companies. Oh. The corporation raising its representation targets will see it attempt to increase ethnicity, disability, and socio-economic diversity on screen and off screen. The BBC has published new inclusive production principles to foster an inclusive culture on each and every production, which includes specialist hair and makeup stylists to work with Afro-textured hair and a variety of skin tones, and ensuring its sets are accessible. Charlotte Moore, the BBC Chief Content Officer, said, we are committed to backing British storytelling, and I recognise the important role diverse-led indies play in telling these authentic stories. By increasing our investment in diverse content and enhancing our off-screen diversity targets, we aim to create a more inclusive environment that authentically represents and resonates with all audiences. Really? The original diversity commitment saw £243 million invested over the last 3 years to drive diversity and inclusion both on and off air. And how's that done for you, Charlotte? Research lead Panyota Satsu, apologies, professor of media diversity at Birmingham City University, where the Sir Lenny Henry Centre is based, said, the report pulls together rich evidence and offers a series of recommendations that inform the BBC's future work on creative diversity. We believe this research creates a solid ground for future initiatives and conversations on media diversity that will make a difference to the industry. These people are insane. They are obsessed with segregation. Why not just tell stories, and why not just entertain and then hire the right person?
But that's my feeling on this. It's like I want people to get on in life. That's fine, whether you're black, white, disabled, able-bodied, whatever. But surely it comes down to the whether or not you can do the job or not. You can't just get a job because I don't get a job just because I'm white. So why would someone get a job because they're black or disabled? That doesn't make any sense. You have to be able to do the job and be talented in that job to get the job, surely. Yes,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah. I mean, you have to be the right person for the job. If somebody came, I have a friend who was a producer in television. He's had very serious problems over the last few years because he's a certain age and he's white, in my opinion. So he's struggling to get work. But his attitude was this: if an actor came in and they were disabled and they blew me away with the performance, we would alter the role slightly to suit that actor. What's wrong with that? Now they're going out, as we've mentioned it before on Headlines, haven't we, Ian, Paul? We've mentioned it before. Everything the BBC has been what they call positive discrimination. No. There's no such thing as positive discrimination. It's still discrimination. And in this case, it's discriminating against anybody that happens to be white. It's absolutely nonsense.
The BBC for ages now has developed quite a reputation for doing job adverts that say white people needn't apply, especially males. So they've got that anyway, but it doesn't, that research lead, whatever he was called, Panacotta Fatso, I don't know, but it doesn't surprise me that he's based in Birmingham, which is, probably one of the least diverse cities where whites are definitely a minority. But, that's exactly where Lenny Henry is going to base his media centre, isn't it? Because he's got a ready-made audience there that he's preaching to. But this kind of diversity, it exists already, and it is very, very, very anti-white. I mean, if you're going to make TQI representation more in line with the British population, then you're going to have to cut it by about 85%, because it's already way overrepresented. Frankly, it's everywhere. They're everywhere. You can't look without it being there, and it isn't like that in real life, but it is on TV. So it needs cutting, not building up. And the fact that they're spending £80 million more annually just gives another reason why the whole damn thing should be torn down.
It's just nonsensical. And again, it's part of this whole showbiz culture world. And there's a lot of you saying in the chat, how is that working out for you? You are losing public. I heard recently, or I read recently somewhere, all alleged, of course, that Strictly Come Dancing has now scrapped the same-sex couples in future series because it wasn't popular. Now, it shouldn't be. I'm going to say this again. As a gay man, I don't want same-sex representation in something like Strictly Come Dancing, because you follow the rules of the ballroom. Don't be changing those rules to suit you on a Saturday night on a show. No, if you're going to do ballroom, you do it properly, and it's male, female. And there's reasons it's male and female, because of the balance of the weight, the movement, the style of the dances, the stories you have to tell. There's a lot of reasons for that in ballroom.
There's also a question of who leads as well. That might be difficult.
And, it's ballroom. You don't mess with it. Now, if that's true, that's an example of the BBC. Actually, that show's not going to be popular with people like Charlotte and all this sort of stuff, who are saying, no, you've got to do this and this and this. But it's enforcing diversity. It's telling the independents, we expect this from you. Now, take it from me, Who viewers. I know how difficult it is to get something into the BBC, because you have to tick all these boxes. And if you turn around and say, I'm not prepared to do that because that's not the content of the production, these characters are these characters, you don't get any backing, you don't get made. Chris is saying to us, Paul, just before I come to you, I always supported the BBC license to make Richard Attenborough incredible shows. Production as Claudius, incredible drama that commercial TV would support as televised theatre now. Though I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I can't understand why anybody would support the BBC in this day and age, Paul.
What I was going to say was about ticking boxes to get a production made. The thing about that is, if you made it yourself and it became popular, all the naysayers would jump on your bandwagon. You know what I mean?
I just don't like the fact that this is discrimination openly out there, open discrimination in the name of DEI. And as I say, I don't believe in positive discrimination. It's still discrimination. And the people that are missing out on this are actually the people, I'm going to say this, are the people that take the largest percentage of the entire United Kingdom, and that's white people. Because we're getting from the BBC all the time, and some of the other production companies now. You can only apply for this job if you are from this group, and it never ever mentions white. It should be open to all. I think it's disgusting. I really do. I just cannot understand how we've got to this. As Rick was saying to us all there, all audiences. They're not going to have any audiences left, are they? Lee is saying to us, Lee Smith, let's see how many working class actors and writers they give jobs to. Yeah, Christopher Eccleston might not be happy, might he? Because he's always banging on about Salford. How many of them are going to get a job now? How many did they take on of Salford local people when they opened the almighty BBC at Salford Quays? Not many, I can tell you. And those
they all moved from London, didn't they?
They all moved. The model moved from London,
Yeah.
and then couldn't stick it in the north, so would go back to London on a Thursday afternoon or Friday. God knows where they all are now. They're probably all working from home. Mega the Extremist, it is nice to see you. Diversity targets simply treat DEI as some sort of skill or qualification, and it's shameful. No argument from me.
Yep.
This is where we're at now, I'm afraid. Graham is saying to us, this is ridiculous, JT. It's scarily insane. And Talons is saying, JT, there's a big difference between installing wheelchair ramps and letting them equip themselves with missiles. This is a joke. Yeah, of course, you don't know, that's happened in Doctor Who. That's why he's talking about that. It is a joke, and it is funny. So if you're offended by that, tough. Marjorie is saying, box ticking nutters, the lot of them. This is the British Broadcasting Corporation as well, Marjorie. It really
there's no money to make decent programs. They're spending 80 million on something like this.
Yeah, and the fact that they farmed everything out to BBC Studios or the Independents as well. But this is 80 million of the British taxpayers' money they are spending. I mean, I found out recently that other companies are doing this. The NHS are spending money on this. Apparently, you can get a job in the NHS as a DEI officer for 65,000 a year. Why can't that be spent on the nurses? Or the doctors, or the equipment, and getting people out of hospital corridors? I don't get it. Excellent reason to no longer pay the license, says John. There you go. And Duckula is saying DEI is a religion.
It really is.
Yeah. Good point here from Peter Venkman. Davros is offensive to the disabled, apparently. Yeah, all alleged as well. That's what RTD thought. We all know that one. He's not going back anytime soon. Hopefully, because we won't like it. I don't know this. This is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? And Timescales is saying to us, if a company executive did something like this in the United States, they would likely be prosecuted for misappropriation of funds. Yeah, unfortunately with the BBC, nobody, the civil service, the BBC, all alleged, they don't care because it's not their money. It all comes from the taxpayers, so they don't care where they spend it. And nobody ever goes and says, where did you get that 80 million there? Where did that go to?
How much is a license fee now? I don't know.
100 and something,
140 odd, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just done back of a fag packet. 80 million divided by, I've done it as a nominal 165, just in case it's gone up again since the show started, which it could have done.
Probably has, yeah.
That's just shy of 500,000 TV licenses, which is probably bigger than the audience they're trying to pander to.
Yeah. But also what gets me, some of the people they are pandering to, and we've said this, called this mythological audience they're all craving for, i.e. younger ones, they're not paying the blooming license fee anyway. They don't care. They're never going to do it. They are never going to pay that license fee. How many youngsters from the age of 27 downwards do you know have left home and are paying a license fee? Some of these kids, for whatever reason, are still with mummy and daddy, and mummy and daddy are paying the license fee, and spoiled youngster doesn't realize that there's even a thing called the license fee that they will have to pay for the minute they leave home, including if you are a student. You have to have a television license if you are watching live television. How many of them do? How many of them are actually that aware? It's not going to happen, is it? This is another. We've got to get the message out here about what the BBC are doing here from this London Evening Standard article. People need to rise up about this in a polite way, not in any sort of, but and just phone in and say, this is a waste of our license fee. We'd like it on decent programming, please. Julianne is saying this is over-representation, plain and simple. Totally agree. What's that noise? Is there a train going past everyone?
I've got a flat roof here, and it's raining very.
Is that what it is? Gosh, listen to that. Can you hear that, everybody? It sounded like a train in the background, didn't it?
It really does. It really does. It's
you're getting the bad weather now. YW2324 says you can have representation, but have good freaking science fiction stories. Well, yes, what we agree with that, don't we, guys? That's what we're saying. In Doctor Who, I mean, this is what gets me about this. Some of these people look at the original Doctor Who. Britain was a different country then. It was a completely different country. And that's why you didn't have all this representation. And they're criticizing the past because they don't understand the Britain we are living in today, God help us, was nothing like the one I was brought up in, nothing like the one I was born into in the 1970s. And sometimes I bemoan the loss of that Britain because I miss the villages, I miss the village fetes, I miss the places, the markets, I miss the shops you could go down to, I miss the community feel in all the towns, I miss all the traffic that's on there, all the arguments that are going on right now. The fact that people can't walk down the street without feeling safe like we used to be able to. The fact that I grew up in a Britain where you could keep your back door open 24 hours a day. That's that Britain's bemoan that.
But Britain's always changed over the years. It's always developed and changed. In 10 years' time, it'll be different to what it is now. Hopefully, for the better. But people don't see, that things do change. This is going to change. There's going to be a shift. There has to be a shift.
I hope so. I really hope so, because common sense at some point, as I've said before, must return. The adults at some point must return into the room. Yeah. They have to. Yeah. Otherwise, we are lost. Because at the moment we are being dictated to and managed badly by ideological nonsense, and too many people thinking about how do I come across, how do I look good, or just bend the knee to that and go along with it. Or there's a bandwagon, I'll jump on it. And I'm seeing it every single day. And we've got to be able to turn around and say, actually, no, that doesn't make sense. This is what's going on here. You know what I mean? And the BBC is the worst example of this. Now, when it comes to representation, quality will suffer even more if the BBC are not hiring based on talent and qualification for the job. Exactly, Matt 532. Exactly. I've seen people put into jobs that they are absolutely not suited for, just to tick that box so a business can go back and get some sort of award, or to say they've done this, or report back to whomever saying, look at this, we have started our DEI projects or whatever it is. And then you're then lumbered, unfortunately, where you have a member of staff that can't do the job and you have to find somebody else for them to do it and then get somebody else to do it.
Yeah, it's not very realistic way of working, is it, to be fair?
It's ridiculous. You're wasting money, but the pressure is on to businesses there. So, yeah. So listen, I want to suggest, I just want to bring into this part when it comes to diversity and all this sort of stuff. It's something that Garbage actually told me about this week. So, yeah, it has been announced this week that the BBC has rejected criticism over Rogue. So this is the BBC has thrown out complaints about Doctor Who's Regency era episode, which featured a kiss between Ncuti Gatwa's Time Lord and Jonathan Groff's character Rogue. Now, this is what makes me laugh about all this, because this is part of what they are talking about, isn't it? Here, we've got this one from Bleeding Cool. Thank you very much to Garbage sending this. I didn't do a graphic for this, everybody, because I thought you might be over raw with graphics. So I'll read this to you. The BBC has dismissed viewer complaints about an episode of Doctor Who featuring a historic gay kiss, yawn, between Ncuti Gatwa and Jonathan Groff, both of them. Two viewers complained about the inappropriate sexual innuendo in the banter between Gatwa's Time Lord and Groff's bounty hunter Rogue in a Bridgerton-inspired episode, written by Loki Aluman, Kate Herron, and Bryony Redman. So they're saying two viewers complained. Well, one of them must have been that. Well, one of them must have been me, because I complained. I complained to them. I said, this is not the Doctor. This is not what Doctor Who is about. This shouldn't be in this. So apparently, according to this from bleedingcool.com, 2 viewers complained about this episode, saying it included sexualized content and suitable for children in the audience. The outcome apparently was the ECU considered the complaint in the light of the BBC's editorial standards of harm and offence. The ECU, which is the BBC Executive Complaints Unit. Now,
they're not qualified to judge that at all, are they? Surely.
No, because this is the
Based
BBC
on
itself.
experiences. Yeah.
Any complaint to the BBC goes to the BBC, and somebody in the BBC decides. We know how the BBC works. We know how the BBC looks at the great British public. We're all the great unwashed. We're all the ones that need to be told how to think, etc., etc. So the outcome from the ECU, they considered the sexual innuendo to be towards the mildest end of the spectrum, and in any case likely to go over the heads of children, while the development of the relationship served the needs of a fast-moving plot and was unlikely to strike viewers of any age as a model for interpersonal relationships outside this particular fictional context. So therefore, the complaints were not upheld. So listen, to you lot in the BBC there, let me just tell you as a Doctor Who fan, you don't understand Doctor Who. You've got no clue what Doctor Who is. Not at all. And all you were looking at there is ensuring that the diversity and the inclusion and all the agenda was intact. You weren't looking at the context of this 61-year-old story about a Time Lord, an alien from the planet Gallifrey, who for 26 years was asexual. You don't care about the context. You just looked at that little bit and thought, no, we can't criticize that. It's going to go over the head of kids. How can that absolutely lustful scene go over the head of young children?
If that bit was removed from the episode, it wouldn't make any difference to the content because this episode would still flow without it.
Thing is, normally with the BBC, if there's something fairly innocuous and they get one complaint, they will take that one complaint, take it very seriously, and they will act against whatever it was that the complaint was about. Every single time, it's usually one complaint, and it would have been more than 2 for this. We know that.
Yeah.
And they're just dismissing it, and they are dismissing it because they have their agenda. They absolutely do.
Yeah. As Richard says to us, guys, the BBC is never going to find itself at fault these days. Now, there were, before the election and before the government's changed into this new one we've got, there were hints that Ofcom would come and take all the BBC complaints. I don't even think it needs to be them. I think it needs to be a brand new independent body with sensible adults at the helm that take on the British people's concerns, because the BBC is not listening and doesn't care, because as far as the BBC is concerned, we in Britain are the great unwashed. It's as simple as that. They've even said that, more or less. We've had BBC staff who have left the BBC now saying that's how they look at people. And you're right, Richard, it never is going to find fault with itself because of that very slant, that very way they were looked at. They just wind me up. You can tell, can't you, everybody? I'm so annoyed about this, about what's going on. This is the taxpayer. For those people that are actually still, like some of my family, and obviously some of you guys and some of your families, still paying for a license fee, they don't know what they're paying for. This needs to be told. Look what you're paying for. They're looking for you, for your money, to drive agendas that have got nothing to do with you and not hire your kids. That's the whole point. It's about time they were privatized.
Some people were posting the actual cost of the TV license, which was £169.50.
Thank you for that.
A little recalculation was that is basically 471,500 TV licenses, which I don't live there anymore, just outside, but I was brought up in York, and I know John on here is in York. York,
lovely place,
is a reasonably sized city in Britain. That's 3 times York. That number of TV licenses, 3 times York, just spaffed every year on this diversity and equality Lenny Henry pleasure fest
report from the Lenny Henry College or whatever it was. Yeah, not from him himself, but for the college that's named after him. I mean, it's just but again, it winds me up because it's not representational at all of the United Kingdom, and it is segregational, and it is discrimination. It's nobody's questioning it. Nobody's talking about it. And they should be. The British public should be. The government should be. They should be saying, no, positive discrimination is still discrimination. You take the right people for your apprenticeships. You take the right people for your jobs. It doesn't matter what frame they happen to be in. It doesn't matter what color they are. If they can do the job, then you put them through the interview process and the recruitment process. I find it disgraceful. That's where we've got to now, where you can't get a job because you happen to be of a certain color or from a certain group. Shocking. Anthony Green is saying to us that Jinx Monsoon was the ultimate TV diversity hire, one of the worst acting performances of all time. Yes. There's nothing more we can say about that, is there really? And Legion of James is saying, yes, it does go over the heads of the kids because the kids are not interested in watching it. We do know that there are some children watching it, but I would say to any parent, like a lot of you guys who have got kids here, watch it first and decide whether you think it's suitable for your children. I know Phil here on chat won't allow his kids watch it because he doesn't think it's suitable, because there's issues in the new series of Doctor Who he doesn't want to have to address over the breakfast table. Quite frankly, yes. As a parent, he should be deciding when he wants to talk about something with his children. And yet Doctor Who is now robbing parents of that opportunity.
And he shouldn't have to do that if it's considered a family show.
And well, yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Should this be considered a family show now? I'm not sure it should be. And actually, I would say for the first time in its history, if this thing is going to continue, get it off BBC One and stick it on BBC Three, where its audience may find it, because that's what they love there. They love all that drag queen crap over there, don't they? Simon is saying to us here, a complaint to be proportionate and fair should not be investigated by the people you are complaining about. And yet, don't you find that in today's world it is? It always goes to people, and you can't trust them to do a good job, and they never usually do, because there's always some sort of influence there to say, I must be loyal to such and such.
Yeah.
You know, that I find that an awful lot. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Allegedly, money changes hands, you know.
Yeah. Over children's heads, you don't understand what Doctor Who is, let alone what is proper children's viewing. Yeah, I mean, and I love that picture of Zippy and George from Rainbow. Stephen, thank you for that. That's cheered me up a bit. I mean, that's the thing about this as well. Also, look at the time it's broadcast. Look at who it's being marketed at. Look at the fact it has an annual out, which is obviously for anybody under the age of 4, you know, because it's ridiculous. It's just, you know, again, it's down to this DEI and the 80 million. It's going to get worse now. 80 million more pounds of hardworking people's money going into this nonsense. And how many millions are unemployed that are quite happy watching the television, possibly some without a television license every day? I don't know. It drives me insane. Kieran is saying to us, they obviously clearly don't respect the show anymore. Absolutely. And Garbage is saying, I heard on GB News that the BBC have a good relationship with Ofcom. I would imagine that all the channels should have some sort of good relationship with Ofcom. But at this point, because you mentioned GB News, Garbage, I'm going to remind you that it was the BBC staff that a year before GB News actually launched tried to bring it down and have continued to do so since, because they do not want an alternative point of view to what they're saying. Yeah, Sheila B is making a point here. Youngsters are embarrassed by kissing, etc.
I know I am.
Well, I was in that one, because that wasn't innocent in any way, shape, or form. That was lustful.
Yeah.
It was lustful, and it was disgraceful, and it was embarrassing, and it was annoying. And I just thought, no, this isn't the Doctor. Write it off of me. And that was episode 2 on the first night, for heaven's sake. They're missing the point totally, says Matt532. That episode was purely written. Was written purely for that one moment. Yes, it was. Yeah. And we've got that come through, hasn't he? Russell and the 2 women that wrote that actually came out and said that. Russell has actually said that he gave the story as an apology to something we've covered before, where he didn't like their Loki episode. So he gave them the opportunity to write for Doctor Who, and they wanted something with gay in it. And he said, fine, let's do it. Well, we'll fool you lot, because it's not worked, and it's shed millions. A lot of you in the chat here, so thank you so much for joining us. But these are stories I think everybody should know about, because it does affect Doctor Who, doesn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely, it does.
So we've got, but it's great to see you. Shempmeister is with us. Hello to you. Even a notorious Doctor Who YouTuber who I detest is now turning on the show. Up until the last couple of episodes, you'd swear he was on RTD's payroll. I know exactly who you mean. We never mentioned him here.
Yes.
But we have seen that today as well, Shempmeister. You're absolutely right. And he will now start to get the attacks that we're all used to, because he dares to step out of line, and he's not following the party whip. So let's see how that goes for him, shall we? Keep an eye on that. Might even talk about it. but we'll never name him. Never name that side of the fence at all, I'm afraid. Don't like them.
He's in the A team, isn't he?
Eh?
He's in the A team, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks, GT. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, hello and welcome to Van Zan. Nice to see you here on Who's Views. What are you saying? The Doctor Who fan channel DEI didn't earn it. Yes, DEI didn't earn it. I like that. I've just noticed a lot of you saying that. Yes, DEI means didn't earn it. That's a good point, guys, isn't it? Actually, very good. Thank you, Van Zan, for that. What else we got here? Just Jordan is saying to us, the letters that they send are very threatening, though, and I think that scares so many people. Now, this is about the license fee, in case you're outside the country. You can get license fee departments sending you letters saying you must do this. You must. No, you don't. And don't let them scare you, because it is a scare tactic, just like those old vans in the 70s and 80s, which had nothing in it, which were allegedly patrolling the streets, knowing what you were watching and knowing when you didn't have a license. It's all nonsense. You are not breaking the law if you do not watch live television and do not have a television license. That is your legal democratic right. But you mustn't watch live television. Okay? You can do the time shift stuff later on, or you can do all the repeats. But is there anything on television that you want to watch anyway live? Come on. Look it all up. It's on the government website. You can look at the government websites for your rights. Do not let the BBC frighten you, because they're just bullies. There you go. Allegedly.
Wouldn't surprise me if Labour changed that, though, because the BBC is a bit of their mouthpiece, isn't it? Although they have been challenging them this week, which I was surprised. It hasn't taken them very long. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's very interesting. I haven't seen it. I don't
was saying that the usual Labour line of "it's all the Tories' fault" isn't going to wash for much longer.
Well, they can't keep doing that. They did that last time round. Do you remember? I remember personally getting bored with that in '97 when they kept going on to it into '98. And I was like, oh, come on. At some point, take the responsibility yourself. Mind you, I have to say the Tories did it as well after they got in with the Liberal lot, didn't they? Yeah. And it got boring then. It got boring then. Oh, Simon L is saying to us, I used to work for Ofcom, albeit a fair while ago, and they have more of a good relationship with BBC. Take from that what you will. Say no more.
We will, yeah.
We will. We absolutely will, mate. So thank you for that one. Really appreciate that. Doctor Who is supposed to be a role model for children. So unless you want your teenagers acting like dogs on heat at parties, keep them away from this garbage.
That's a lovely image. It really is, yeah.
That's very fair.
Really, really is. And hello to Douglas Smith, who's joining us as well, and Silk Vampy, aka SK. It seems like the show is split into two parts, the Tennant part and the Gatwa part, the old way and the new way. Just the old way is hidden from the big audience. I ask you what you think about it. Well, from my point of view, it's split into several parts. You've got 26 years of classic and superior proper British television, which was entertaining and fun, and which you could watch at any age and get something from, which was entertainment. Then you've got New Who, and now you've got RTD2 Who. And things go off the rails for me in New Who, because I just think all this soap opera element isn't in. I don't like it. Don't like it at all. Don't like this sexualization of the Doctor. It's not the same character for me. Chibnall comes along and endorses my point of view there by actually saying, no, it's not the same character anymore. I've completely destroyed all that. This is a totally different character. And then you've got this stuff with Gatwick, which isn't just Doctor Who at all. No. But there you go. Silk Vampy, by the way, is getting ready to come over to the United Kingdom on a trip in October. So I hope you're all getting ready for that and you're all excited. How exciting is that to come over? Don't stay too long, though, because it's really awful.
Whereabouts are they visiting?
Newcastle.
Oh,
come to Newcastle.
All that area there in the northeast, all that area there she's going.
Aye.
Yeah.
It's much better than going down London.
No, yeah. Much nicer. A much nicer area of that one as well. So what we got here from Philip, Rogue episode, there's a brand of fan fiction where the authors get their jollies. Imagine, for example, that Kirk and Spock get it on sectionally. RTD employed 2 writers to do just that with Doctor Who. Yes, he did, and he did deliberately, thinking that everybody would think it was also progressive. Wrong. And John, ignore the letters, you have nothing to fear. Exactly. Overlooked creative, says Mark Milford, are bypassing the gatekeepers and thriving outside the mainstream in publishing and music, and AI is set to do the same for TV and film. Well, we'll see. We'll see. The problem is, though, Mark, is that if an independent has a television show that they want to produce, then they have to go to people like the BBC, ITV, Channel 4 and Channel 5 or Sky, or even Netflix and Amazon Prime or wherever, to broadcast it. And the BBC will turn around and say to them, right, we like the idea of your show. We like your pilot episode you're showing us. However, you have to have this in it, this in it, this in it, this in it to be put onto BBC television. And some of those program makers will go, oh, but this is about Henry VIII. Oh, but we want it on BBC One. Okay, we'll make Henry VIII black and gay. That's what's happening, Mark. It's just ridiculous.
Well, there is that one where they've made the British monarch black, gay, and in a wheelchair, isn't there?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, you do, Chris. Chris Lawley is saying to us, I understand watching BBC iPlayer, you need a license. You are technically supposed to have a license. We've mentioned that before here. Yes, you do. But as we've said many times before here, if you're outside the UK, somehow you lot are all accessing the TV license, the iPlayer. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting. That's all we're saying on that one for now. But yeah. But there you have it. That's the latest from them. Dalakai saying, I did look at the BBC website and got confused. So at present, I still have a license, but desperate to cancel it. Don't look at the BBC license because it's scaremongering. Go and look at the government website and put in there HM government TV license or something into your search engine. It will come up and look at that one because that tells you exactly what you're to do. I don't think it's been changed, but don't let them confuse you. If you want to cancel your TV license, you can do. It's your right to. You phone them up and you tell them why. Simple as that. And do not watch live television. There you go. That's how you do it. I know because I've done it. And I did it years ago. And I do not watch television at all, really. Thank you very much. JT, did you get my cheeky email last week about you being on my 8K TV? If I have, Simon, I haven't got it there, but that scares the hell out of me, guys. I don't know about you. But thank you very much, everybody, for your comments. It's great to see you all. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome, Dalikai. Have a look at the government website. It'll keep you right. And YW is saying to us, YW2 and T24, I just watched the classic Who on Tubi. The whole TV license thing confuses me no end. And that's what they want. They don't want change. So they will try and confuse you no end at all. Right, listen, we've got another story for you here. I hope you're all able to stay with us because we're coming over time again. But great conversations tonight, everybody. Thank you so much. But we are coming up to the next one because let's get into our last story of the evening with everybody. It's RTD again. Mentioned this before, but we're going to get into it, talking about him again, our favorite person, because he's been talking to SFX magazine again. Here it is. Here's the copy that I had my coffee with the lovely staff at my local Tesco. Yes, I will not buy any of this nonsense, as well, you know. Just for you, I plod down to my local Tesco, grab a coffee and these magazines and take photos for them.
Can I say this again? That picture of Shooty and Millie makes it look quite good. And then I watched the episodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a shame, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, in this interview with SFX magazine, who adore and love RTD's new version of Doctor Who, of course they do, they chat to him about all this. Now, some of this you will be very interested in, I am sure. Do you write the visibly emotional performances from Shooty, or does he bring the tears himself? Asks SFX magazine. RTD responds, sometimes I write it in. Actually, I wrote it less and less because Shooty would rather I didn't. He would much rather he feels his way through it. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but it's a very largely his choice, and I love it. I adore it. We look forward to those moments. It's amazing, and it's what he does now. That's who the Doctor is. When an actor feels that happy and relaxed and open and confident and true, then there's no way I'd even drop a slightest line, not a note. In fact, the only line we give is just keep doing that. Keep doing what you feel happy with. This is magnificent. A Doctor who's more emotional, who expresses his emotions more, and that's particularly appealing to a young audience. Here we go again with this mythical young audience they're so desperate to gain. It continues. The one thing you do with children now, with young people of any age, is to say that you want to express your emotions. And that's why society's in the mess it is in the United Kingdom, quite frankly. One thing we must encourage young people to do is to talk about when they're sad. Why? And equally when they're happy. Why? To post a dance on TikTok to show that all is well. Pathetic. Children's mental health is our greatest problem in society in the West. So I love that. Suddenly, it's almost my desire as and his talent remarkably combined to produce this. We didn't talk about this. This is a complete coincidence. And that's what I write chimed with how he acts. And I love it. I absolutely love it. If you don't like it, good luck to you, because there's going to be a lot more of it.
Told you.
Good. Oh, joy. Oh, good. I'm so happy. But that point that he's saying there, look, one thing we must encourage young people to do is to talk about when they're sad or when they're happy. Children's mental health is our greatest problem in society in the West because of people like you pressurizing them, probably with all this nonsense ideological BS that you're giving them. No wonder they're all confused. And then you're forcing them to listen to all this crap and putting it into shows where they should be getting escapism. These people drive me mad. They're the ones creating all this nonsense. And then, we put it in this. So we're going to get, this is Dr. Weepy every 20 minutes, of course. This is what he's going to be known for. This is the crying doctor. I hope we get back to a more Colin Baker or Peter Capaldi grumpy doctor if the show continues, which I doubt. It's never going to happen. They won't cast anybody over the age of 10. In the future. The article continues. There's been a lot of talk about ratings as well. We have a show that is getting over 6 million viewers and still growing. That's great. I can't believe that 21 million viewers aren't watching. And that's my problem. It certainly is, because I can. I generally mean that. In Britain, I want, what's the population of the country? 60 million. I want 60 million people watching. Not a chance. So I will never rest until that happens. Well, you're going to have a long wait, love. Nevertheless, I love it. I think it's an enormously good series. Well, you would. I think we've made episodes that echo things like 73 yards you possibly think about for the rest of your life. We've done an episode based on a pun on the word bogies, which I think is hilarious. Grow up. 5-year-olds watching that are just hooting with laughter. I'm very pleased at the range of it. It's always going to be a show that's different every week. So it was my intention to make it really, really, really different every week. And I think we've done that. We've certainly done that next year as well. So we're delighted, to be honest, with what we've done. The most delightful doctor and the most lovable companion. That's been the joy of it. My God, that's why I want 60 million people watching. I want them to see them. That final scene of them together on the TARDIS is so beautiful. The acting of the two of them is superb. I couldn't be happier. Do you ever get the feeling that some things are forced and it's too you know what I mean? It's too
such a lovable companion and Millie, and they bring another actor in to dilute it. That's crazy, you know. But,
yeah,
he comes across ever so obsessed with the opinions of children, and
because that's the target audience now, isn't it? And it's the BBC's mythological audience as well. They want the
very
young people.
uncomfortable, though, isn't it? And I don't know what position of knowledge he's coming from when it relates to children, because I'm pretty certain he hasn't had any.
Well, probably not, unless it's nieces. But let's we've mentioned this on the show before. Compare Series 1 with Ncuti Gatwa's version to Sarah Jane Adventures. Now, which one would you lot all prefer to watch?
And Sarah Jane Adventures, definitely, yeah.
And that was children's BBC produced. That was deliberately aimed at that mythological audience that they were then. But because times were different, children watched it. It didn't patronize. It didn't have messages every week. It was just good, solid entertainment that actually the majority of 40-year-olds, like 30 or 40-year-olds, are right, because Sarah was there.
And that was more like Doctor Who than the current series is, for sure.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And do it. Compare the two of them. Which one would you rather watch? Let's carry on with what he's saying in this, because has there been any news on renewal for season 3? We reported on that last week. It carries on. You look at a 60-year-old show and think, how can it be possibly be the same, but be different? It was very different, yet it still was the same. You can tell that SFX are far up his own arse here, aren't you?
Yeah.
It was nothing like Doctor Who, you silly, silly people. Good. That's what I set out to do. And I don't quite know how we did it. It came back to it with two very simple intentions. Obviously, to make it good. Well, you didn't work on that one. But I wanted it simpler and I wanted it younger, as simple as that. That's partly down to having a young doctor. having Millie, who was 18 years old when we cast her, and that's a very significant thing to get on screen. I hope that's helped reach a younger audience. They're saying in the BBC figures that our age 16 to 30 audiences are amazing. SFX then say it's the top drama for BBC for under 35s. Again, we've talked about that on a previous headlines. There's some astonishingly simple stories. The Devil's Cord is the Doctor beats evil god, fights them and wins. Rogue is the Doctor meets somebody he loves and loses them and defeats some birds along the way. Even things like 73 Yards, which is possibly as mystical and deep and strange as you could possibly get. It's very simple. There's not actually many plot twists in it. In fact, it's the same story told over and over again. What 73 Yards does is go through different genres. It takes that woman and puts her in a Welsh folk horror pub. Then she goes into a unit story, and then she goes into a political story. Then she goes into one of those stories that turns out to have lasted for 80 years. You could talk about 73 Yards forever. I'd rather not. But it's actually very, very simple. So I wanted that brought back. Simplicity. Is there anything you do differently as SFX? It's hard for me to tell, possibly because I'm so steeped in Doctor Who. Doesn't show, does it, guys? In an ideal world, what we wouldn't have done is had a Doctor-like episode and then a comparatively Doctor-like episode. But that's because of sex education. It's worthwhile spelling this out because I have seen people saying, why did you even shoot the series knowing that Shooty wasn't available?
Exactly.
That's all. Yeah. That's all hindsight, he says. 6 or 9 months before we've started shooting, we're having to base scripts on sex education, not knowing what their dates are, who are completely free to change their dates. This is not their fault in any shape or form. Any production is allowed to do what they want. They've got nothing to do with Doctor Who. So when shooting might have originally been available in October, then it was November, then it was December, then it was January, at which point we had to take action. We had to take action not knowing what the future was. So every analysis you're seeing of what we did there is done with hindsight, knowing exactly when Shooty was free. We did not know and had to do this to barricade the future to make sure we got a show on air. The other choice, and there was a very clear choice, was not to go on air until 2025, and I absolutely thought that was wrong. I thought there's no way we're going off air for that long. Maybe that's the wrong decision. Maybe that could have worked to our advantage in a better way, but I don't think so. I don't entertain that for a second, actually, and I did think these things through. As ever, what you should bear in mind with internet opinions is that people are perfectly free to have opinions, but they've given it 5 minutes thought. We live with it 24 hours a day. You can absolutely guarantee we have given it more thought and we have more reasons for doing what we've done than you can possibly imagine. To put those two episodes against each other, to have the Doctor-like one, then the comparatively Doctor-like one next week, I think that was wise. Otherwise, the program jerks up and down. The program becomes inconstant. Instead, we had a middle patch of the show in which we told interesting stories that have worked.
I think it was a massive mistake having Shooty missing from his first series. That was really stupid. They should have waited. They should have waited to give him as much exposure as they could have done to establish him as the Doctor. That was daft, really daft.
I think that article's interesting. I mean, he's very condescending and insulting about how much thought,
as usual.
Yeah, about how much thought people have put into what they're saying about it in their critique. Just because he doesn't like it, he wants to make it like it's just a fleeting thing. But he says he didn't want it off screen for that long. It's shortly going to be off screen for a hell of a lot longer when it's canned. But he also said early on, which I think is a very bad message, the Doctor met and loved. I mean, he'd met this character and fell in love in about 5 minutes. What kind of message is that you're giving to your mythical child audience? That you can genuinely love somebody within 5 minutes of meeting them. And they've
tried. You can't have love at first sight, though, Ian.
Sorry?
You can't have love at first sight, can you? At least you can have that.
Yeah. Well, you can, but I mean, this character that he loved in those 5 minutes also tried to kill him in those 5 minutes as well.
True.
Yeah.
Whatever turns you on.
Be on your guard, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, again, lots of chat coming in. I knew this was going to be a big show, and I knew we were going to have lots of things to say with this, and I'm delighted that you have. Simplicity equals moronic, says Komodo, and Dalek Eye, Elizabeth Sladen or Gatwa. There is no contest. I agree. So delusional, said Richard Brooks. John was saying he is steeped, but not in who. Be steeped in his fan fiction, says Peter Venkman. Keep your comments coming through for this particular one as well. Life is hard. You will struggle, and at times it's not fair. You need to learn hard lessons to become stronger. Being spoon-fed feelings first, all over else is removing the ability to cope with minor issues. I totally agree, Legion of Danes. What I see that our country a bit now is so many kids wrapped in cotton wool.
Yeah.
You know, they really are. And alleged adult, but this is the problem. You know, I remember saying in the 90s, actually, we're going to have an issue here because kids are having kids, because there were a hell of a lot of young ladies of age 16 or something giving birth in order to get a council house, for example, or something like that. It's shocking. And I think I'm right, because we are now seeing issues. You cannot, as a child, have a child because you've got no development of your own. You're practically growing up with your child. And now we've got all these people, all this American nonsense. No. Again, I'm not getting at Americans at all. But as British people, we shouldn't be touchy-feely, in my opinion. We don't do all that sort of stuff. But now we do, because it's been brought in from America. And it's all about, how do you feel today? Oh, I'm bringing my, what do you call, authentic self to work. No, just come to work and do the bloody job. We don't care about if you want to identify as a cabbage. We don't care. Do the job or get out. And unfortunately, they do. I had this actually told to me yesterday, I think it was. Was it yesterday? Might have been Friday. It's all a blur. When I was speaking to somebody, and he was telling me that his mate had to let a young person go from an apprentice job because the young person was on a building site and was told to put on safety goggles, and he refused. I have never heard of anything so ridiculous outside of Doctor Who circles ever. There is a reason. And that's what these people are like. These youngsters are coming along saying, well, I don't have to do that. It's different to being at school, where a lot of this nonsense is also encouraged. It's different to being around with your parents. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And I hear more and more stories like that. I've had a lot of those stories over the last few years. It's ridiculous, isn't it? You know?
If some of them did identify as a cabbage, to be quite honest, I would just say, well, to be quite honest, I've been treating you like one for years.
It's not much of a stretch for some of them, to be fair.
It's not, is it?
No. Rick Storm is saying to us they could have recast. They could have actually checked on an actor's availability. You're absolutely right. That's what usually happens, isn't it, Paul? When you're casting an actor, before you even go to the actor, you go to their agent and say, what's the availability? That was the profession as I knew it. What's the availability of this particular person?
And there's no excuse where they could have sorted it once they planned its availability, like they did with Peter Davison.
Yes.
In season 19, he had like 3 different shows on all at once. And they managed to get him in a full season, you know?
Yeah.
There's no Doctor-like episodes in season 19 at all, is there?
No, and he did the whole of all those episodes, and as you talked, Sink and Swim and everything else. Because at one point, everybody, believe it or not, Peter Davison was on everything. He was on everything, on every channel. He was one of the most popular actors of his day. Good for him. He should never cast someone who wasn't even fully available. The twerp, says Paul Richards. And Matthew Pounder said, cast an unknown. They have less commitments. They did.
Yeah.
Ooh, bitch. They did. Because Ncuti Gatwa wasn't unknown. He might have been known to the sex education Netflix lot. But how many people generally in the United Kingdom knew who he was? He is an unknown to many of them. And still is. Because he's had no impact at all as the Doctor at all. Really, honestly, I can't believe SFX printed this, says Lee Smith. I can.
They used to be good. I used to like SFX. Was in it once, but I used to like SFX, but I haven't taken it for a long time. It went way down.
I haven't bought it for years, and they're all thinner now, and they're still very, very expensive. Have you noticed? I noticed that when I was looking at this the other day. Timescales. He admits that he makes decisions based on his advantage, quote unquote. Interesting is a true statement that has slipped. And David Harding, I hate to say it, but that article is validating my decision to part ways with the show after the giggle. Nothing RTD is saying feels authentic. It's pure hucksterism. That's a new one for me. Hucksterism. I'm going to have to look that up. Thank you for that, David Harding. Ooh, get you with your big words. Don't insult my intelligence, Russell Tough Davis, says Richard Brooks. The annoying thing is that they know people like us are going to look at this and talk about it, because that's what Doctor Who fans do. We always have.
And we spend longer than 5 minutes thinking about it, though. Yeah,
we certainly do.
Well, we spent
If only he did.
how many hours? 2 hours or 2.5 hours a week talking about his series live on this channel. That's more than 5 minutes, slightly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just a touch.
goodness, what condescending. Dalek Eye, that have twerked. And Marjorie is saying to us they should have cast another actor who can do a better job. Well, if the rumours are true, they nearly did.
Yeah.
One day we will know. Paul is saying to us, Paul Richards, RTD clearly wanted Gatwa and was prepared to damage the show by not having him fully available. It's absolutely crazy. Well, the Legion of James is saying about the article, what was all that about? Blah, blah, fluff, spin, more spin, blah, blah. Did they get that right? Yes, totally.
Not that I'd want to wish any more episodes on us to watch and review with Shooty in. They needed a longer season as well to help him establish himself, I think, and writing it as the Doctor as well, obviously. But
Yeah, that's fair.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point. If he wasn't available, hire an actor for the role that was available and show more commitment for the part. I think as well, there must have been an aspect there where these people, including the showrunner, was looking at what he was writing and thinking, what sort of actor can play this? And remember, Phil Collinson said to Doctor Who magazine, oh, we interviewed everybody. We interviewed straight, gay, non-binary. Please, that's where they're at.
But what has that got to do with playing the Doctor? I don't understand.
It should be, we just interviewed actors. But if Gatwa's availability was a problem, then they could quite easily have done maybe 4 or 5 Tennant ones instead of the 3.
Yeah. I can be.
I mean, I know the Tennant ones were an absolute abortion, but at the time we didn't know that. We were filled with hope, which very quickly left us. But we were filled with hope. And if Gatwa hadn't have been available, they could have stretched the Tennant ones out like they did his final season with the specials and everything. They could have done it like that.
Yes, it's a good point.
Gatwa was available, but they didn't.
Yes, you do have a good point there. They could have come up with an alternative, but they wanted that series. They probably wanted something to sell to Disney to get the money in as well. Let's face it. They wanted the financial backing possibly to produce the spin-off and perhaps a series 2. I don't know. I think there is a business element to it there, but I think it's a good point. Had they really cared about this, yes, they could have delayed it somehow and shown it in 2025. I don't think anybody would have noticed the difference from 24 into 25 because I think it still would have flopped next year. Yeah, there's more to that, I think. Paul Ashworth, thank you again for your super chat. Scores on the TARDIS doors. RTD likes the sound of his own voice. 10 out of 10, the end. Yes, you are true. And Sheila B in the devotions is saying, "Oi, it's an insult to cabbages." Sorry about that.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Tom always wanted the cabbage on as a companion, though, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
So yes, shouldn't have done that. Thank
now
you.
We've got one of the Doctor.
Allegedly. The Welsh pub scene in 73 Yards was easily the best scene in the series, says Anthony Green, but it was thrown away with a pathetic joke at the expense of the English. I can't remember it. That's where I am with this, Anthony. Those 8 episodes, I watched them, 9 if you include that blooming thing at Christmas. I watched them, talked about it here, put them to bed. Never will watch them again, and it will never join this ever. Just like the Chibnall era, because to me it wasn't Doctor Who, and I didn't see the Doctor in it. And we're going to do it all again from Christmas onwards. Oh my God, the things we're going to do. Oh gosh, I hope you're all going to stay with us here on Who's Views. Make sure you subscribe because you lot have got to help me get through the next set of 9 episodes, 9 including the Christmas one. Oh God, I'm going to have to lie down. It's going to take. I have to stop.
No, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Yeah.
No, I can't. Oh God. JT says DD. They should have confirmed availability and recast at need.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's an awful lot of you. I mean, this is where you're at, Mr. T Davis, for when you find this show, because I know you do. Yeah, this is where you're at. People doing this. I mean, come on. All Creatures Great and Small. Russ Morgan. What, the new one? That's something I do like to watch, but obviously I have to go to families because I can't watch live television. They and my sister very kindly records it for me on her thingy.it, and I go and watch it there as a binge watch because it's back. The Channel 5 hit that nobody else wanted allegedly is back this Friday. I think it's either Thursday or Friday on Channel 5. Can't wait for that. What a cracking series
That's
that is.
Kind of what I'm saying though, about trying to put on a production that people won't touch and then it becomes a success. And I'm sure Channel 5 and BBC One and all, oh my God, this looks really good. Why don't we do something like that? once it's been proven that it's a success. You know what I mean? They jump on the bandwagon a bit.
The problem is they don't care. The BBC doesn't care. It doesn't care about what, as long as the messages that they want are in there. I mean, look at the Famous Five.
Yeah, true.
The new version of the Famous Five, they absolutely dictated what they wanted to see in that. I can't say too much because I refuse to watch it. But I've heard, oh, look, it's typical BBC. Oh, it's got this in, it's got this in, it's got the. Oh, let's make her a lesbian now. Let's make her George a lesbian. She wasn't. She was a tomboy. But according to these people, you're not allowed to be a tomboy. You have to be the full-on.
You can't go into yourself and find yourself. You have to be labelled immediately. That's it. Yeah.
And what was wrong with being a tomboy anyway? They were just girls who had a bit of gumption to them that just wanted to play with the boys, and were usually better at certain things than any of us. Anyway, Derek Hart, welcome to Who's Views. Shows what SFX about these days. Type anything up. Absolutely. And Leah saying,
I probably written for them as well.
Yeah, I bought SFX from 1995 to 2005. Says Lee. That's a long time. That's a long time. It does look. It's not my cup of tea when I look at it. You know, if. Paul Clark is saying I dropped out of Doctor Who after the giggle because I could see where it was going. You were not wrong, and I think we all did as well because we were concerned, weren't we, guys, when it came to the Christmas one? Where's this going to go? Wow, it really.
It was from the moment when the Doctor said that Isaac, what's his name?
Isaac Newton.
Isaac Newton. I said Isaac Asimov. That Isaac Newton was hot. That you knew that was when it was going.
You knew where things were going, didn't you?
Yeah, you did. And hello and welcome to Who's Views, to Smoky McBacon. I generally love RTD, but it feels a bit like there are fewer people telling him, hang on, you sure about that? Or they're still saying it, but he's not listening as much. We have covered that here on the show, actually, in the further headlines. He has actually said no one can stop him and no one would dare to stop him. He's that powerful, that influential. And I think part of it is basically now people are slightly, allegedly, frightened of him or worried that he might be able to say, you're not employed, and you're not employed, and you're not employed. That could be the case, Smoky McBacon. Smoky McBacon goes on to say they probably thought that they could write around Ncuti's availability, but I think they underestimated the problems it might cause down the line. That's what he's trying to imply there, Smoky McBacon, isn't it? It really is there. I mean, I have to state at this point as well, I once respected RTD. Now I've got all that's gone. All that has gone because of things like we reported in last week's headlines and other things, and the way he's treated Doctor Who this time around, and the way he's spoken about fans, and the way he's kicked off in award ceremonies over the last 3 or 4 years. No, I can't have any respect for him, I'm afraid, anymore. I don't like him. There you go. I've made the decision. I just don't like him. Thank you very much, everybody, for all your chat. It is absolutely wonderful to see you all. YW2324, don't worry, JT, I'll be here. Thank you very much. And Stephen Braddock saying the Christmas special in season 2, we will all be carry on screaming. Yeah, probably, actually. Goodness me. What are we going to make of all the new stuff? I'm so glad that RTD could explain everything to us functionaries, says Steve Hindley. Exactly. And the BBC too. Exactly. And Dom goes saying, think of them as 9 nails further into the coffin of RTD2 Doctor Who. And Sheila B is saying to me, Tricky Woo. Yes, Tricky Woo, in case you don't know, is the spoiled brat dog in All Creatures Great and Small, which is very famous in itself. There you go. So thank you for that, Sheila B.
Pay a visit to North Yorkshire, JT, and I will take you to where it's filmed.
Oh, I'd love that. They might ask me in it, though. That's the problem. They might just say, JT, have a walk on.
It could be a Who's Views trip.
Oh, that would be fabulous.
You too, Paul.
I'd love to see that. It looks fantastic. Oh, no, look, Dom goes also saying to us, since all this started, I've dumped my new Who Blu-rays in the bin.
If you actually put string through them and everything, they're very interesting distractions for chickens. They love the shiny disc. They peck at them.
I've heard this. I've heard this.
Chickens. Yeah.
I used to have chickens. Yeah.
Right.
Loved it.
But it's something to do with keeps them calm or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Keeps the chickens calm. Yeah,
yes,
I've seen that somewhere on a farming show where this young farmer, put all these old CD and DVDs that they didn't want out there. And I just thought that, how do you know that? That is really, because obviously they're working with the chickens all the time.
So
on
it's
the
like a
farm.
chicken mobile kind of thing. That's what
Yeah,
they have for babies.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just
Pretty
pick at them.
things, yeah.
Yeah. So never throw them away. Give them to somebody with chickens.
Yeah. Thank you all very much for your comments here. You know, all views are welcome here, but we do have the right to turn around and say, like, we don't agree with you, we will shoot you down. And Timescales is saying, thank you for tackling the tough topics. Well, that's what we're here for. Headlines, of course, here on Who's Views is our political show. The rest of the time, we're actually loving on Doctor Who as much as we possibly can. We've just finished our Worlds Below season, where we celebrated, to an extent, the Silurians and the Sea Devils until we got to the Matt Smith stuff. But it was a celebration. We've got a couple more of those shows to come. Of course, we've got our look or listen to the musical scores of all the episodes we've covered there. And yes, we are going to be reviewing the Sea Devils from 1972 with the magnificent John Pertwee as part of that season, nearer the time of this other thing that's coming, so we can compare and contrast. If it's too far in the year, we'll just bring it up ahead in the schedule because we don't know when they're going to be broadcasting that thing. But stay with us. And as I say, this week we're starting our season overview series with a look at season 25. So come and join us on Wednesday for that one as well. Lots of different things here for you. Timescales is also saying, good show. Congrats, JT. So happy to see this growing for you. That's very nice. Thank you very much. Oh, cheers, Timescales. Look at this from Philip. I had a couple of scenes in the first episode of the new Famous Five, sadly cut for time, but I did like their slightly 80s radiophonic workshop synth score. Did they really? How out of place for what the time should be? Because surely they were set in the 30s or 40s, the Famous Five, surely. So where did they set it in the 80s, Philip? Didn't look like it from their clothes, from the publicity I saw. Maybe they were trying to go for that, again, young audience. I don't know. But I'm glad you had a bit in that, though. Yeah. Chicken tips, says Lee Smith. Yes, new feature here, exclusive to Who's Views. And they use them as wind chimes. Yes, they do. We're not going into all that. But thank you very much for everybody for joining that. You carry on blubbing, says Steve Hindley. Actually, that's what we could actually call. Make a note of that. We might call one of our future shows "Carry On Blubbing." Hang on. Making a note of that, Steve. Thank you very much. You won't get any credit or payment, but cheers anyway. Thanks very much. Yeah, so that's it. That's where we're up to. I mean, I hope you've enjoyed that show tonight. Lots of chat from us all tonight. Lots and lots and lots and lots of chat. One thing I do want to say as well is thank you to everybody that actually did join me as a surprise on Friday. When I did an impromptu show updating everybody about Daryl Joyce's calendar, Moments in Time. That is still available. But just to let you know, if you're one of those people that are hanging around for this and thinking, oh, I'll get it. The whole point we're coming on Friday is because I suddenly realized on Friday, you only have 16 days left to order Daryl's calendar. Daryl, as you know, is a friend of Who's Views. He comes into the chat an awful lot. So that means that as of today, you've got 13, let's say 13 days left to order Daryl's calendar. There you go. It's a limited edition. You can get it at that website down there or by clicking on that thing there, which apparently is called a QR code. There you go. So you've got that there. So if you want the calendar, don't delay. Get it ordered today.
Do it.
Oh, well, listen, a lot of great chat tonight, everybody. Guys, wow, what a show, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Cracker.
Yeah, and thank you so much for everybody for joining us. Huge audience tonight. Nice to see you all. Carry on destroying Who, carry on pandering, says Garbage. Carry on crying, carry on hubris. Oh my goodness. And Philip is saying to us, yep, it was set in the 30s, but anachronistic synth score, which I really liked. Oh, I see. So it was set in the 30s. Okay. I bet Enid Blyton wouldn't like them. Never, what are you talking about? I'd work for Bad Wolf, but the wages are paltry. That's always been the way, I'm afraid. Yes.
Another chicken reference there, yeah.
Yeah. But listen, thank you so much, everybody. It's great to see you. We will be back, of course, as I say. Thank you, Sheila B. in the devotions. I was listening to your record the other day. Fabulous. Yeah, you've thrown me. What was I saying? Yes, we will be back on Wednesday for our season 25 overview. Come and join us for that. That should be interesting. First of a new series for you all as we start looking at various seasons. So come and join us for season 25. To third Dr. Ian and to Paul, thank you so much again for joining me on the show tonight. I hope you've had a great show. I certainly have. Yeah. Got an awful lot off my chest tonight, everybody.
All nice and branded. Yes, it's been good fun.
Yeah. I need to move my camera a bit there. So there we go.
There we go. Look at that.
You had to have a big one, didn't you?
I did, yes. Yeah. You know what they say, Ian. You know what they say. That's a reference to the Paul McGann movie. At least I got that one in. So
yeah. Until we see you again on Who's Views later this week, just remember that whenever they drop a headline, we're going to be here to talk about it because it's our views, it's your views, it's Who's Views. Well, have a great time. We'll see you again soon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.